The 10 essence and blood's power was released. The 10 essence and blood's power was released. Long Fei's body suddenly could not take it. He had a feeling that he had fainted, as if he was extremely anemic. Long Quang couldn't even call out to Long Fei. The current Long Fei didn't care that much. He wanted to fight, wanted to do it. This god of underworld boss must be knocked to the ground. Even though God of Underworld's body did not emit any golden light, it was completely different from the previous bosses. But Long Fei violently flung himself to the ground like this, as he was being pinched in his hands, and he was extremely displeased in his heart. Now that his strength had been suppressed, he could only unleash an even greater power. The 10 essence and blood forcefully stimulated his body and immediately released the power of 12-rate ancient dragon body. It was also the peak, the power of ancient dragon body at the great perfection realm. His strength burst forth. This time, the strength of Long Fei's body was not suppressed. His body immediately glowed with golden light, as if he was a golden man. His entire body was covered with dragon scales, each and every one glowing with a golden light. The dragon aura covered 1,000,000 kilometers. The entire god's material ground was suppressed by this aura. Xianming Abyss's heart sank. He was also crushed to the point that he was in pain. His face became pale, stared at Long Fei, and said, "I never thought that I would still have such a powerful strength. No wonder the master placed so much importance on your existence. If I let a dog like you grow up, it would truly be a great disaster for my Xians. You must die." Xianming Abyss's eyes were filled with killing intent. Surprised him time and time again. Every time he became stronger, as if he was in limitless existence. You think that he was this strong, but with a single thought, he could become stronger. This kind of person was extremely terrifying. Once he enters the divine space, becomes a god's powerhouse, and becomes a divine powerhouse, the consequences would be unimaginable. This brat must not be allowed to live. Immediately, Xianming Abyss let out a heavy cry and said, "God of Underworld, what are you still waiting for? Kill him for me." God of Underworld raised his eyes and stared at Long Fei. The aura on Long Fei's body was also like flames, burning out with golden flames. It was extremely dazzling. It formed a stark contrast to the dark flames on God of Underworld's body. Long Quang was also dumbstruck and said, "And the previous master, the aura on his body, it's exactly the same." Master, is that you?" Long Quang took Long Fei for Long Batian in astonishment. The power of a level 12 ancient dragon body allowed Long Fei to become Long Batian, but the difference between Long Fei's current physique and the Long Batian of the past was still very large. At least, Long Batian was 10,000 times larger than him. God of Underworld was also dumbfounded. Black Hole's eyes widened slightly. It was as if he had just regained some of his memories. It was a very familiar scene. "Little Ming Ming, isn't your training strength too lacking? Super force of Ming clan? It's not enough." "Huh? Little Ming, ancient world will be relying on you from now on. Little Ming, you must take on the heavy responsibility of protecting your ancient world. There are enemies everywhere. You must protect your ancient world well." A special scene appeared in the God of Underworld's empty mind. A tall and sturdy man covered in golden light had a harmless smile on his face as he placed a large hand on top of his head, just like a father and son. That feeling was very warm, making him miss it a lot. It was also at this moment. A command suddenly appeared in his empty mind. The images in his brain were instantly shattered. His brain was in so much pain that it started twitching. He let out a blood-curdling screech. Xianming Abyss's voice became angry. "God of Underworld, I told you to kill him. Are you deaf?" As soon as he finished, God of Underworld's eyes flashed with a cold light. His entire body exploded with rage. The death flame was burning at least 10 meters high. With both of his eyes locked on Long Fei, he moved his right hand and took a posture of drawing a blade. Under the 12-rate ancient dragon body, Long Fei's power broke through the suppression and escaped from the God of Underworld's hands, landing 100 meters away. His body slightly lowered, his eyes tightly locked on a god of underworld. Hoo 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 hoo. Hoo 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 hoo. Long Fei's breathing was extremely heavy. The strength of the 12-rate ancient dragon body was very strong. It exceeded the endurance range of his fleshly body. Long Fei was forcing it. At this moment, God of Underworld's body slightly moved. His right hand drew his blade, his posture making him look like a dark warrior. Whoosh! God of Underworld's figure disappeared. Long Fei frowned. His body fiercely charged forward as his right arm moved. Boom! The infinite boxing appeared on his fist. The instant the God of Underworld disappeared, he clearly saw the moving trajectory of the God of Underworld. Boom! The black abyssal blade slashed down. The infinite boxing blocked it directly. Long Fei's body exploded down from the air. Rumble! God's material ground was cracking. The moment Long Fei landed, he stood up from the ground, and like a bolt of golden lightning, he rushed towards the sky, above God of Underworld's head, and then smashed down heavily towards God of Underworld's head. Ah! Boom! The fist landed on God of Underworld's head, causing his body to sink heavily into the ground. Dust filled the sky. God of Underworld smashed a deep pit. Long Fei took the opportunity to give chase. However, when his fist landed in the deep hole, his back felt a chill. F***CK. A blade slashed down on his back. Walala. Space was slashed apart. The golden dragon scales on Long Fei's back emitted a series of sounds as they cut through the glass, which were exceptionally ear-piercing. Long Fei staggered, and blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. He turned over, leaped up heavily, and quickly flew into the air. Holy **T. This guy has 360 degrees and no blind spots. My power can't harm him at all. Could it be that the power of the 12-rate ancient dragon body is that weak? Long Fei muttered in his heart. After a few moves, Long Fei was simply unable to gain the upper hand. He had been suppressed and beaten. Most importantly, his attacks could not cause any damage to the God of Underworld. Moreover, strange, there were no bloody slots on top of God of Underworld's head. Why didn't such a super boss have any HP? This doesn't make sense. Attack upon attack was completely useless. It even made Long Fei's scalp go numb. Boom! Yet another charge. Long Fei was flung out and faced the attack again, his body frantically changing positions. A punch landed on his waist. Boom! God of Underworld was pushed back a few steps. He did not have any pain nor any expression, and he instantly pounced towards Long Fei. He was like a living dead man. What's going on with Dragon Kwong? Long Fei frowned. The energy consumption of the 12-rate ancient dragon body was too fast, and his profound chi was about to run out. At that time, let alone the God of Underworld, even ordinary strongest Emperor swordsman could easily kill him. Long Kwong thought for a moment and said, he might be a puppet. What is it? What is it? Puppet? You mean someone's manipulating him? Long Fei was a little shocked. This super strong boss was actually a puppet? The God of Underworld was too strong. His 12-rate ancient dragon body was not even his opponent. So how could such a powerful person be a puppet? However, when Long Kwong said that the God of Underworld was just a puppet, Long Fei also suddenly understood. No wonder there's no blood groove. It's no wonder he doesn't know pain. Long Kwong. Who's controlling him? I want to know how to deal with this guy right now. It didn't matter if the golem was a golem or not. The most important thing was how to deal with this guy. Long Kwong Dao. I'm afraid there's only one person who can turn God of Underworld into a puppet. Long Fei asked, who? Long Kwong Dao. Emperor Xian. Long Fei was startled and asked, you aren't saying that if you want to take care of this fellow, you have to kill the Emperor Xian, right? If the Emperor Xian turned the God of Underworld into a puppet, then he could only kill the controller. However, where is the Emperor Xian? Even if it was here, could Long Fei kill him now? If not, what now? Flee? Long Kwong Dao, theoretically yes, but there's another way. It's just that this method is very risky, and if he fails, it will only make him stronger, and he will be completely manipulated. Long Fei asked, quickly tell me the method. I won't F***king be able to hold on any longer. God of Underworld rushed forward once again. Long Fei's body was blasted away as the strength in his body dissipated. It wouldn't last long. Long Dao, God of Underworld, fell. The power of the ancient inheritance on his body disappeared, and Emperor Xian did not obtain it. This is also the reason why he was able to turn God of Underworld into a puppet. If you want him to escape and recover his consciousness, the super force of Ming Clan is especially crucial. Wait, Long Fei's eyes turned cold. You said just now that you wanted him to recover his consciousness? You mean the super force of Ming Clan can completely revive him? Holy **T. God of Underworld had fallen for several trillion years. His body was immortal and indestructible. The super force of Ming Clan had left his body, and now that it had returned to his body, would he be able to revive? This is too unbelievable. Long Dao, powerhouse like God of Underworld, is simply unable to be killed. Back then, even they fell because of temporary death. No matter how strong the power of the Emperor Xian is, it can't destroy his body. As long as we can infuse the super force of Ming Clan into his body, of course. This process is very dangerous, and if you make the slightest mistake, you might die. Then it's over. There's another possibility. If you inject the super force of Ming Clan into his body, he might not be able to recover his own consciousness, which means he's still a puppet that possesses the power of the ancient inheritance. He can recover a bit of the power of someone at the peak of the God of Underworld. This is very scary. With your current cultivation, there's no way you can block it. Long Quang said seriously. There were two possibilities. Either one could take Long Fei's life. Moreover, these two possibilities did not benefit Long Fei in the slightest. He was constantly sacrificing his super force of Ming Clan and his life. However, this was the only way to solve the problem of the God of Underworld. If this continued, Long Fei would only die from exhaustion. Long Fei asked, "Is there no other way?" Long Dao, "This is the only method I can think of. If he regained his consciousness and truly resurrected himself, then he should know that you're a descendant of the dragon race and wouldn't attack again." Although Long Quang didn't know what the relationship between the Ming Clan and the dragon race was, he knew very well. However, Long Batian had supported the Ming Clan before. If God of Underworld were to wake up, he wouldn't be able to deal with Long Fei. This was only a guess from the Dragon Berserker. What would the result be? He couldn't say. "Brat, obediently kneel and accept your death. If you die, the world will be at peace. If you don't die, my Xian's army will wipe out this mortal world." Xianming Abyss laughed proudly. For Long Fei to be able to endure against so many attacks from the God of Underworld made him feel extremely unhappy. He continuously commanded the God of Underworld to use his strength. However, he could only command it, but not actually over-control it. Then again, the God of Underworld had lost his strongest super force of Ming Clan, which was more or less the limit of his power. Long Fei raised his head and looked at the complacent Xianming Abyss. His eyes tensed up. "We're going all out. Let's take a gamble." Long Dao, "Master, if you want to escape, I've just calculated that there's a 15% chance of success. If not, no way." Long Fei immediately shouted out, "You can't escape. What if I escape? What about the Phoenix?" With the personality of the Xians, all of his brothers would have died. No matter what, he couldn't run away. "Long Dao, have you decided?" Long Fei said, "Tell me what to do. Hurry up. My profound qi is almost exhausted." Long Fei was about to collapse. Long Dao, "Listen to my command. Get close to him first, and release your Ming Clan's mark, turning all of your strength into super force of Ming Clan. When your super force of Ming Clan and the power in his body fuse together, I'll teach you what to do next. Master, every step is very dangerous. And the moment Xianming Abyss discovers something, he will very likely intervene. At that time, if you were distracted, I'm afraid." The Dragon Quang was very worried. He didn't want Long Fei to take such a risk. Long Fei asked, "Why do you look like a woman?" "Motherfucker." Long Fei moved. the spirit chi on his body changed, and the super force of Ming Clan started to surge. He watched as the god of underworld charged directly towards him. Long Fei exhaled heavily and muttered, "God of underworld, this daddy is saving you. If you can sense it, then you better cooperate with me a little." As soon as he finished, Long Fei rushed forward. Buzz! The super force of Ming Clan on his body exploded outwards. It blended into the black flames. God of Underworld was stunned for a second, but then he started to attack Long Fei. Long Fei continued to intertwine around God of Underworld, frantically releasing super force of Ming Clan. Bam! A knife cut into his chest, and golden dragon scales flew out. Bam! Another slash. Long Fei spat out a few mouthfuls of fresh blood as the super force of Ming Clan on his body fused together with the darkness flames. "Is it ready?" Long Fei said with great difficulty. "I can't take it anymore." Xianming Abyss wildly laughed as he looked at Long Fei, who continued to spurt out blood. "Boy, you're going to die soon, right?" "Ha ha!" Long Quang was precisely calculating. 1 second, 2 seconds. Suddenly, Long Quang shouted, "Master, use your Ming Clan's mark and use your super force of Ming Clan to condense a drop of your profound chi." Long Fei's pupils tightened and immediately followed along. The Ming Clan imprint appeared. Xianming Abyss's pupils also contracted suddenly. "Ming Clan imprint? Aren't you a descendant of the Dragon Clan? Why is there the Ming Clan's mark? That's not right. You have the super force of Ming Clan on you. The second strongest ancient inheritance is in your body. What do you want to do?" Xianming Abyss's body trembled slightly. Could it be that you want to inject the super force of Ming Clan into God of Underworld's body? You're courting death. The super force of Ming Clan, the second strongest power in terms of strength. The super force of Ming Clan, the second strongest power in terms of strength. The power exclusive to God of Underworld S. It was also because he obtained this super force of Ming Clan that he was able to become the overlord of the ancient world, and thus create the Ming Clan. How powerful was the super force of Ming Clan? But the appearance of the Xians, the birth of the Emperor Xian. Ming Clan suffered a crushing defeat in this battle. The entire clan had been annihilated, and only a few people on the edge of the Ming Clan were able to escape. Be it in the ancient world or the divine space, they would not be able to see anyone else from the Ming Clan. Ming Clan was exterminated, but what Emperor Xian did not expect was that the power of the ancient inheritance on his body had disappeared. Moreover, billions of years in an hour without a trace. It never appeared again. Now, it had erupted from Long Fei's body, and the super force of Ming Clan and the death aura on God of Underworld's body had fused together. This made Xianming Abyss nervous in his heart. Even if he did not understand what Long Fei was doing, he could still tell that Long Fei wanted to inject the super force of Ming Clan in his body into God of Underworld. What were the consequences of this? Xianming Abyss didn't know either, but he knew that Long Fei would definitely make a profit doing this. "I can't let him go on." Immediately, Xianming Abyss's eyes locked on a Long Fei and said solemnly, "No matter what you're doing, you're about to die. God of Underworld, kill him." He gave the order. A cold light burst out of God of Underworld's eyes as the death aura on his body burned even more fiercely. The black flames seemed to have blocked half of the sky. It was half the size of a demon king. It was abnormally cruel. However, when God of Underworld unleashed such a powerful force, he did not immediately attack Long Fei, but instead looked at him woodenly. All sorts of memory fragments rose up in his mind once again. "Little Ming, in the future, you will meet someone who gives you the super force of Ming Clan. That person will replace me, and you have to listen to him. Little Ming, you have to protect this person well, because he can resurrect you. You must remember, you must protect this person well. Little Ming, you will die this time. Don't worry, with your future cultivation base, your fleshly body won't die or perish. Even if you die, your fleshly body will never rot. Someone will use your fleshly body to refine you into a puppet, and you will just have to wait. Wait for the person who injected the super force of Ming Clan into your body. That person will bring you back to life. You must remember, Grandpa Tion, is that you? Why should I listen to him? Will I die? Who can kill me? Grandpa Tion, what will this world become in the future? Why are you telling me this? You are so powerful. You will protect little Ming, right? Under the setting sun, a burly man was leaning against a big tree. A child was running in circles around the tree. The picture was beautiful. Woo-woo. God of Underworld let out a woo-woo sound. It was the first time since his appearance that he had uttered a sound of his own. This made Xianming Abyss even more nervous. How could this be? Why? Xianming Abyss moved his body and directly entered the God of Underworld's sea of consciousness. With a loud roar, he said, God of Underworld, kill that brat for me. Immediately. Although Xianming Abyss did not have absolute control over the God of Underworld, he was a person who possessed the Xian's S. And at the same time, Xianming Abyss's consciousness entered the God of Underworld's sea of consciousness. Long Quang let out a heavy cry. It's right at this time. Whatever I do, you follow. Remember, do not make the slightest mistake. Otherwise, he will go berserk and will never be able to possess his own consciousness again. Master, you'll also be severely injured. Long Quang reminded him seriously. Long Fei said, hurry up, I really cannot hold on any longer. Once the level 12 ancient dragon body's power disappears, I'm afraid that the 10 essence and blood will not be able to hold on. Hurry up. The current Long Fei was fighting with his life on the line. Long Quang did not waste any words. It's starting. Void souls, 2 fingers pressed against the temples. Gate of heaven, a thread rising from his forehead. As he spoke, Long Quang also did some movements. Long Fei couldn't understand what he was saying at all. She could only watch as he said what he had said, followed by what he had said himself, and then copied everything he had done exactly as he said. In the process, the super force of Ming Clan on Long Fei's body began to frantically output power, rushing into the dark flames on the God of Underworld's body, causing the flames on his body to become even denser. He gathered his nether energy. His body was also beginning to absorb the super force of Ming Clan from the black flames. God of Underworld's own body also started to tremble, and his consciousness slowly had an even stronger reaction. Xianming Abyss could feel his consciousness becoming stronger. The stronger the puppet's consciousness, the more he needed to escape his control. Xianming Abyss's heart tensed up even more, and he gave a heavy order. God of Underworld, I order you to stop. Immediately kill that brat for me. Do you want to disobey your master's orders? Have you forgotten how you died? God of Underworld's body twitched. It was as if he was frightened by something. The absorption of the super force of Ming Clan slowed down slightly, but Long Fei felt very uncomfortable, as if he was being pushed backwards by strong wind, making it hard for him to advance even a single step. In his current physical condition, he could not bear the retrograde. He didn't have much time. He couldn't bear it. Woo-woo. The God of Underworld let out 2 more woo-woo sounds. The idea shivered. Boom. A thunderous super force of Ming Clan suddenly exploded from God of Underworld's sea of consciousness, instantly shattering Xianming Abyss's consciousness. Uff. Xianming Abyss spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale white. The waiter immediately stepped forward and greeted, Sir. Xianming Abyss's pupils contracted. He gritted his teeth and shouted, Damn it. He was enraged to the extreme. Xianming Abyss never thought that such a thing would happen. He could feel that the God of Underworld's self-awareness was gradually awakening. If he allowed this development to continue, the God of Underworld would definitely awaken. At that time, he would have been resurrected. Absolutely not. If he was resurrected, how would Xian's elder think of him? Once he revived, he would definitely have to deal with the Xians, and he would be the first one to die here. We can't go on like this. Xianming Abyss immediately made a decision. He was no longer able to issue any orders to the God of Underworld unless the super force of Ming Clan on his body disappeared. Thus, There was only one way to make the super force of Ming clan disappear from God of Underworld's body. First, get rid of Long Fei. Xianming Abyss stared at Long Fei sinisterly. You dog, go to hell. He took a step forward. With a slight movement of the air, Zhang Xian casually whipped his arm. Walala! A huge sword that was 100 meters long flashed out with a golden light and slashed down at Long Fei. An enormous sword. An enormous sword. Immense strength. The unique power of the Xians. At this time, Xianming Abyss himself had also completely transformed into the god's powerhouse, his every move emitting a dazzling divine light. Everyone on the god's material ground was stunned. They could not understand what was happening on the god's material ground at all. Xianming Abyss came out to fight. The release of God's state caused everyone to be shocked. It's actually the god's powerhouse, and the divine light on his body is even more glaring than the elders of those ancient families. Too powerful. The sky is splitting apart. Can the god's material ground bear it? Such a powerful force. That kid is dead for sure. He deserves to die. He can't live after he killed so many of us. Many people hated Long Fei. Long Fei had killed too many people. They had never thought of him. If they hadn't wanted to kill Long Fei, how could Long Fei have touched them? On ancient antiquities side, Zhao Dahan's brows tightened and said, Second brother, Xianming Abyss moved. Boss said that when Xianming Abyss moves, we can begin. Bailey Tianhai nodded heavily and said, We will begin to break out of the encirclement. Wu Shui, take good care of my sister-in-law. Miss Xianji, can you still fight? Bailey Tianhai looked at Qian Xianbel. Qian Xianbel slightly nodded and said, I'll do my best. Bailey Tianhai did not hand the phoenix over to the strongest person, Qian Xianbel, because he did not trust Qian Xianbel. The god's extreme palace had been annihilated by Long Fei. So how could the palace master possibly trust him? No matter what Long Fei had done to her, Bailey Tianhai had his own considerations. Bailey Tianhai said, All right, then we'll begin. Zhao Dahan took the lead and rushed to the front, wanting to quickly break through. However, just as they were about to leave, the waiter coldly said, The people from ancient antiquity want to escape. Stop them. Everyone's attention was focused on the god's material ground. No one was concerned about the matters of the ancient antiquity and were reminded by the waiter. Many people stared at Zhao Dahan and the others. Immediately, the hundreds of sect disciples and elders stood up in unison. We can't let them escape. They let them go after killing so many of us. Stop them. Kill them. We can't let them go. In a moment, hundreds of powerhouse-s flew toward Zhao Dahan. Zhao Dahan growled, F***CK him. Whoever blocks me will die. He did not care about all that. He directly released the power of his emperor's strength and activated his defense. His entire body was like a heavy bulldozer as he rammed into the enemy crazily. The four lines of the five elements were also blocked. A chaotic battle broke out in the stands. Those elders and sects whose sect masters had been killed by Long Fei all had their eyes bloodshot and their killing intent sinister. They would absolutely not allow Zhao Dahan and the others to escape. Although Zhao Dahan could block it, he couldn't break out of the encirclement. He could only continue to block it. Many of those who rushed up were strongest emperor swordsmen. Moreover, in the distance, Song Guqing glared at Zhao Dahan and the others like a tiger eyeing its prey. His son being killed and his junior brother being killed was a huge blow to Sword Sky Sect. Although he could not deal with Long Fei, Zhao Dahan and the rest would definitely not let him off. And then again, Wu Shui hugged onto the phoenix. If he could capture the phoenix and exchange it for a large amount of good stuff from the Dark Temple, then that would be extremely beneficial for the Demon Sealing clan. Song Guqing was like a cheetah, hiding quietly. He was waiting for the moment where Zhao Dahan would exhaust himself too much. Furthermore, on God's material ground, Xianming Abyss pulled out his sword, and the 100-meter-long great sword slashed down. It's over. Long Fei's heart went cold. Long Quang, this kind of jumping god, was still continuing his actions. He had to give it his all, to cooperate. Otherwise, all his previous efforts would go down the drain. He would be injured, and the god of Underworld would lose his only chance of reviving. This result would be a waste of everything he had done. What should he do? If he did not block it, he would have been cut in half. There was not much ancient dragon body left in his body. He could not block the sword at all. Long Fei was anxious. Long Quang could feel the worry in Long Fei's heart. He was also anxious, but he couldn't panic at this moment. Furthermore, he couldn't afford to make the slightest mistake. Master, don't get distracted. Soon. It's almost done. You must not be distracted. He was truly afraid. If Long Fei had erred by a single step, not only would he be injured, he would also definitely kill the berserk god of Underworld. Long Fei couldn't speak. He could only bite the bullet and continue following Long Quang. Ah! Crash! Asterisk, as if splitting the sky in half, the sword slashed down. The sword chi was like thunder, berserking along the way. Long Fei's body sank. His internal organs felt as though they were falling down, blood flowing out from his mouth, his face extremely pale. The worst part was, the time limit for the 12-rate ancient dragon body that he had forcefully released was approaching. There were only a few seconds left. If Long Fei were to continue, then his physical body would be completely crippled and his cultivation would directly return to zero. On the other side, Bailey Tianhai was also exhausted. The battle of attrition had made it difficult for them to move an inch. Everything was falling into despair. Rumble, go to hell. Xianming Abyss's long sword dropped. It was about to reach Long Fei's head. At this time, Long Quang's actions hadn't ended yet. Without caring about that, the idea moved and directly entered the god of Underworld's sea of consciousness, saying, God of Underworld, I'll give you the super force of Ming Clan, but I can't even keep my life now. If you ever wake up from your self-awareness, then help me. There was no other way. Right now, he could only place all his hopes on God of Underworld. If God of Underworld did not make a move, Long Fei would not continue. He would save his own life first. It didn't matter even if the god of Underworld went berserk. If he couldn't even protect his own life, why would he care about the lives of others? Long Fei was not so noble. Long Fei's words did not get any response. F***CK. Long Fei immediately cursed in his heart. He wanted to be angry. However, and at this very moment, God of Underworld's eyes suddenly opened slightly. The pair of eyes that were originally hollow and black in color now had a dark pupil within them. This was completely different from the previous pair of eyes. He raised his eyes slightly. In an instant, the dark arrogance's flames were released. At this moment, Xianming Abyss's big sword suddenly stopped. He couldn't cut it down. It was only half a centimeter away from Long Fei's scalp. Xianming Abyss's eyes became angry. Looking at the changed god of Underworld, he roared heavily. God of Underworld, what are you trying to do? You want to rebel? Have you forgotten how you died? Xianming Abyss said heavily. God of Underworld's mouth moved slightly. It was a bit wooden, as if he had not spoken for a long time and had already forgotten how to speak. His voice was a little stuttering as he said sinisterly, Forgot? How could I forget? I've never forgotten it in all these years. The god of Underworld actually spoke. The god of Underworld actually spoke. Although he was stuttering and his voice sounded deep, he had actually spoken. It was impossible for a puppet to have its own will, let alone speak. Now that he had spoken, the fighting around God's material ground stopped. They all looked at the tall and sturdy god of Underworld with their mouths wide open. Xianming Abyss also started to tremble. His great sword could not slash down. It was firmly blocked by a burst of energy, and now that he heard the god of Underworld's words, his heart shivered. The cold instantly spread throughout his body. Xianming Abyss said in shock, how can you talk? Didn't you get killed by the master? You are just a puppet. You can do whatever the people of my Xians ask of you. You can't possibly speak. Terrified, because he knew what the god of Underworld's words meant. He wanted to pull out his great sword and fly out. However, his broadsword could not cut through, nor could it be pulled out. The worst part was, he couldn't even move his body. Unknowingly, his body was surrounded by black flames. It was not the aura of death, but the aura of power unique to the Ming clan. Superforce of Ming clan. He was bound by the superforce of Ming clan. The god of underworld looked coldly at Xian Ming Abyss and said solemnly, I have been enslaved by your Xians for so many years, I will never forget it. Back then, I was defeated by the Emperor Xian and became his puppet. Now, I'm back. As soon as he finished, rumble, 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 tens of thousands of thunderclaps exploded, accompanied by the sound of the superforce of Ming clan's aura rising to a height of tens of thousands of meters and almost instantly covered the entire sky. A black mass. It was like a pitch-black night sky. The entire land, covering an area of tens of millions of km, was in darkness. On the ground, those who died, those undead, floated up with the naked eye. For a moment, the wails and wails of ghosts reverberated in the air. The infernal realm had appeared. It was really just like the infernal realm. The aura emitted by God of Underworld's body was too strong. The second hegemon of the ancient world. He was once the king of ancient world after Longbatian. How strong was the second strongest ancient inheritance? It was hard to imagine. Moreover, this was even while he had yet to completely accept the inheritance of the superforce of Ming clan from Long Fei's body, and while he was still in a state of silence for several trillion years. Xian Ming Abyss was so scared that he peed his pants. Xian Ming Abyss no longer dared to look straight into the eyes of the god of Underworld. His lips were trembling as he said, You, what are you trying to do? God of Underworld, you should be very clear about who is in charge of the current ancient world. It's our Xians. You have died for several trillion years. At that time, you were not a match for my Xians' patriarch. After so long, you're even less a match for my master. I advise you to recognize the reality. Now that you have killed this brat, I can guarantee that my Xians will not treat you unfairly. Xian Ming Abyss knew that he was no match for God of Underworld. However, he also knew that the god of Underworld had fallen at the hands of the Emperor Xian. After so long had passed, and the god of Underworld had died for so long, the Emperor Xian had continuously grown stronger. His cultivation had continuously improved, and killing the god of Underworld now was as easy as flipping his palm. Furthermore, the current ancient world was the king. Who dared to provoke Xians? Whoever it was, the entire clan would be exterminated. The power of the Xians far surpassed the hegemons of any era and was even stronger than the Dragon Clan back then. One had to know that the Xians was backed by the outer space powerhouse. Who could match up to him? So what if the god of Underworld was revived? So what if he recovered his peak cultivation back then? He couldn't beat them back then, but could he fight them now? The more Xian Ming Abyss said, the more confident he became. God of Underworld laughed. Are you threatening me? He was slowly recovering from his stuttering. Xian Ming Abyss said, I am not threatening you. I'm talking to you about reality. The reality is, you must die. God of Underworld's voice suddenly changed, and the super force of Ming clan also instantly tightened, trapping Xian Ming Abyss's throat. Boom! It was directly lifted into the air. Xian Ming Abyss said in a heavy voice, You can't kill me. You can't. Emperor Xian will not let you go if you... God of Underworld replied impatiently. So long-winded. The super force of Ming clan's flames were like a ball of rolling smoke, directly surging into Xian Ming Abyss's body. It suddenly dispersed. Xian Ming Abyss had completely disappeared, not even a speck of powder floating down. It exploded into thin air. Long Fei heaved a sigh of relief. Long Quang finished his last movement. Long Fei finished doing the same. Following that, when Long Fei completely released the inheritance of the super force of Ming clan, the imprint on his arm disappeared. At the same time, Long Fei exhaled a deep breath. It's finally over. His body went limp. He too fell down from the skies. When the power of the 12-rate ancient dragon body disappeared, Long Fei's body could no longer hold on. His body seemed to be cracking. The pain was indescribable. God of Underworld looked up into the sky and exhaled deeply. Phew, I'm back. The voice was sinister and filled with hostility. The inheritance of the super force of Ming clan had completely returned to his body. Just as Long Fei was about to land on the ground, a cloud of black smoke directly wrapped around Long Fei. Boom! They directly lifted Long Fei up. He was lying on soft cotton. This ball of energy dragged him in front of God of Underworld. When the super force of Ming clan recovered, God of Underworld's body became even larger. In front of him, Long Fei was just like a 3-year-old child. Long Fei secretly shivered. This guy won't do the opposite, will he? Long Quang did not dare guarantee it, and said, "It shouldn't be possible." God of Underworld looked at Long Fei coldly, and said, "The super force of Ming clan was released from your body?" At this moment, Long Fei was still enduring the ancient dragon body's anaphasic force. It was extremely painful, and speaking was strenuous. He nodded and said weakly, "It's me." "You?" God of Underworld looked at Long Fei with slight nervousness, and thought about what Long Batian had told him back then. He thought to himself, "Are we really going to listen to this brat? This kid is so weak. Could Grandpa Tian have made a mistake? What can a boy like him do? Protect him?" God of Underworld was filled with doubts. Although Long Fei saved him and resurrected him, but he was very disappointed with Long Fei and thought that it would be an extremely powerful person who saved him. But Long Fei, too weak. What could he do to protect such a person? Was he able to defeat the Xians? Impossible. God of Underworld said, "You saved me, so I advise you to owe me a favor. Speak, what do you want?" "I can agree to any condition." Long Fei replied, "You are the God of Underworld. You control the darkness. Can you resurrect the dead?" God of Underworld was slightly shocked and said, "I can make sure that he dies within 3 days, so I'm able to bring back his soul. Who do you want to revive?" God of Underworld was a little surprised. God of Underworld was a little surprised. He felt that Long Fei should propose an extremely harsh condition. For example, some kind of ancient holy artifact, like making him a bodyguard. Or perhaps he could teach him peerless divine arts, something more difficult. However, Long Fei only wanted him to revive a single person, and that was a very simple matter for him. He was now the God of Underworld, the master of all power of darkness. As long as a person died within 3 days with their physical body, he would be able to easily revive them. Long Fei pointed to the brother in the distance. There was a person carrying Lu Sun's corpse, saying, "I want to revive my brother." God of Underworld followed his gaze and said with some surprise, "Brat, I am God of Underworld. I can agree to any of your conditions. I think you need to think about it. Resurrection of a muggle? You will waste the best opportunity of your life." God of Underworld said solemnly. He wanted Long Fei to carefully consider it. When Long Fei made such a request, he was even more disappointed in Long Fei. He basically did not seem like a person who would achieve great things. Long Fei said without any hesitation, "There's no need to think about it. I promise them that I will also bring them back." God of Underworld was disappointed and thought to himself, "Grandpa Tian, you're the one who asked me to protect this kind of person? Not to mention being weak, there is no domineering king at all. How can a muggle die and be resurrected? Should I do as you say?" The God of Underworld was shaken. After all these years of death, he had always been fantasizing about the person who would bestow the super force of Ming clan to him in the future. However, after all these years of waiting, there was actually such a person. If he hadn't blocked that last sword attack, this person would have died. He could not help but suspect Long Batian's arrangements. "All right, I will revive him." God of Underworld turned his right hand over, and a ball of dense black light appeared in the center of his palm. Boom! It was as if a streak of black flame had been directly injected into Lu Sun's body. Immediately, the wounds on his body instantly healed, and his body formed a powerful suction force that frantically absorbed something. Buzz! His soul entered his body. Huff! Lu Sun took a deep breath. He immediately jumped up and looked around and said, "Am I dead?" "Ha ha! Brother Lu, you're alive." Zhao Dahan shouted excitedly. "Brother Lu, you're alive. You're not dead. This is too amazing." Everyone was excited. God of Underworld said indifferently, "To me, this is just a small matter. However, kid, I'll return your favor." Long Fei said, "Thank you." God of Underworld said, "No need to thank me. I have to remind you of one thing. People who become important don't care about small matters. Your character is too childish. Being wrapped up in all sorts of unnecessary waste of energy, you won't be able to achieve anything big if this goes on." Long Fei said, "I will remember Senior's words." After all, the God of Underworld had resurrected Lu's son. God of Underworld looked at Long Fei, wanting to say something, but hesitated. He didn't know what to say. In short, there were only two words: disappointed in Long Fei. He was very disappointed. God of Underworld frowned for a moment, but still said it out. "Someone once told me that I must protect whoever bestowed me the super force of Ming Clan. But I don't think you deserve it yet. Speak out." Long Fei's heart tensed up. Long Batian. I had thought that the person who bestowed the super force of Ming Clan to me would be very powerful, but you have not lived up to my expectations. You are so weak that I did not expect you to. He was completely awed by Long Batian. After all, without Grandpa Tian, there would be no him. There was also no birth of a Ming clan. Even if Long Batian had fallen, he would still feel the same reverence and respect towards him. Long Fei was very astonished. He suddenly had a feeling. All of this was arranged by Long Batian. He met people from the Ming clan in the small world and trained in the inheritance of the Ming clan, the super force of Ming clan. And now, he had met the God of Underworld in his puppet state. More importantly, the dragon in his body knew how to return the super force of Ming clan to the God of Underworld, so the God of Underworld would come back to life. Long Fei was not an idiot. A coincidence was a coincidence. If a series of events occurred, it wouldn't be a coincidence, but someone had designed it for him. And this person was Long Batian. Then again, Long Quang once said, if a powerhouse who had cultivated to this level had an undying body and an undying body, if the God of Underworld was not, then what about Long Batian, who was suppressed by the repression of boundary stones? He was once the head of ancient world. His body would die? Absolutely not. Then, the final goal that he could do now was to revive Long Batian? Still, he himself was a pawn of Long Batian? Long Fei asked in his heart. Long Quang, tell me the truth. Is this all Long Batian's arrangement? Long Quang Dao, Master, aren't you Long Batian's reincarnation? Long Fei said, did you just tell me that it was Long Batian who arranged all this? Long Quang Dao continued, Master's actions are extremely unpredictable. No one knows why he fell, and no one knows what he arranged. I really don't know. Ha. Long Fei laughed bitterly. If the Dragon Quang was not arranged by Long Batian, that only meant one thing. Long Batian was far stronger than what Long Fei had imagined. Too strong. He could cleverly arrange and design everyone. Moreover, he could also predict what would happen in the next few trillion years. This kind of power had already surpassed the existence of gods. He was inside it, but he didn't know it. How strong was this? Long Fei sneered in his heart. I don't know if this is your plan or not, but I am Long Fei, not anyone's chess piece. I am who I am. Go on and get angry when you're in your senses. Let alone Long Batian. Long Fei didn't know what would happen next. He did not know if the things that happened after that would still go according to Long Batian's predictions. However, he was determined. It's no use who comes. Long Fei looked at God of Underworld and said, I don't need your protection either. God of Underworld laughed and said, Brat, if you don't disappoint me with my protection, I can make you struggle for 10,000 years less. Long Fei smiled. You should take care of yourself first. You have come back to life. Do you think that the Emperor Xian does not know about it? God of Underworld said, so what if I know? If he doesn't come looking for me, I still have to go looking for him. Do you think he's the only one who's cultivating after so many years have passed? I've been training during my death years. Don't forget that I'm training nether energy. God of Underworld was not afraid in the slightest. He was not in a hurry to find the Emperor Xian. All he had to do was recover. The super force of Ming Clan allowed him to revive, but he needed time to return to his peak. God of Underworld looked at Long Fei and said, "Brat, I promised that person to protect you. When you enter the divine space, I'll see if you have the qualifications to let me protect you." While they were talking, God of Underworld moved. Boom! Imperceptibly, the darkness that filled the sky disappeared, and the land regained its light. Long Fei also slowly floated down. The God of Underworld disappeared. The God of Underworld disappeared. Long Fei landed on the ground. There was movement around God's material ground. Only Xianming Abyss was dead. Sword Sky Sect and Song Guqing. There were still many powerhouse S in the various sections. Long Fei was heavily injured, and the rest were surrounded. In this situation, their situation was extremely dangerous. Long Fei was very clear about this in his heart. Thus, the instant Long Fei landed on the ground, his gaze swept across the area. The aura on his body roiled outwards, and he said with a heavy voice, "Are you still going to continue the fight?" The sound wasn't loud, but exploded on everyone's minds. This power was too strong. Many people began to tremble in fear. Long Fei then said, "I am from the Long family, and you scum are not my match. If you want to court death, come at me. I will send you all to hell." Long Quang anxiously said, "Master, don't talk. Master, your body is too weak right now. Don't speak." Long Fei couldn't even stand up straight. However, he had no choice but to persevere on. If he fell, those sect powerhouse S would definitely attack again. When that happened, Bailey Tianhai and the others would definitely not be able to hold on. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei and immediately said to Zhao Dehan, "Big idiot, you go over." Zhao Dehan's face was full of excitement. "Boss is awesome." "Huh, second brother, what should I do?" Bailey Tianhai angrily glared at him and said, "If you're told to go, then go. Don't ask so many questions after that. Use your power to support boss. Hurry up." Zhao Dehan did not understand, but he did as he was told. With a heavy leap, he landed right next to Long Fei. His gaze swept around as he roared, "Did you all hear that? Those who want to die, come up." "Ha ha!" Zhao Dehan laughed excitedly. At the same time, a group of energy unknowingly supported Long Fei. Long Fei's body sank. He controlled his breathing and slowly exhaled. Whether or not they could suppress those sects depended on this. Fortunately, they didn't dare to attack again. One by one, they began to retreat. The people surrounding Bailey Tianhai opened up a path. Long Fei did not leave in a hurry. Instead, he looked at the Dark God tribe and asked, "The power of Xians? You should know who I am now, right? I can't even be bothered to help. Tell your Xians' mistress to come find me. Do you understand?" The few elders from the Dark God tribe tensed up. He didn't dare to make a move. He didn't dare to issue any more orders. They had also seen Long Fei's strength. He could really kill them all within minutes. As long as they could shock the people of the Dark God tribe, the other sects would not pose any threat. An elder of the Dark God tribe said, "Don't worry, I will definitely come and find you at that time." The people of Dark God tribe, listen up. Let's retreat. As soon as he finished, everyone started moving at full speed, and in the blink of an eye, they disappeared from the spot. As the people of Dark God tribe left, Song Guqing furrowed his brows and pondered for a few seconds. Disciples of Sword Sky Sect, listen up. Retreat. Then, everyone from Sword Sky Sect had also left. Song Guqing wanted to attack, but he was afraid. Long Fei's cultivation was unfathomable. Even the god of Underworld was resurrected by him. How strong was this brat? He had no idea. Even if his son was killed, he could only endure and wait for the right opportunity. Once the Sword Sky Sect left, the other sects retreated like the tide. Not a single person left the large god's material ground in a few minutes. Only the people from ancient antiquity remained. Long Fei could no longer control it and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face suddenly turned pale. He plopped down on the ground. Zhao Dehan's face changed. "Boss." Supporting Long Fei waved his hand and said, "I'm fine. I need to rest now." Saying that, Long Fei swallowed a few medicinal pellets restored a bit of his health point, and then sat cross-legged, beginning to recuperate. He was too tired. This was the first time he released the power of the 12-rate ancient dragon body, and even though he was still oppressed by the god of underworld, it caused huge harm to his body and heart. The 10 essence and blood released it in one go. Its power was too strong, and its impact was too fierce. At this time, Bailey Tion High and the others all rushed over. "How is it? What's wrong, boss? Everything was fine just now. Why did it become like this all of a sudden?" Long Fei's eyes were slightly closed and was no longer able to speak. Bailey Tion High said, "Don't make any noise. Don't disturb boss cultivation. 5 elements, formation, protection." The brothers of 5 elements immediately dispersed. They had formed a 5 elements formation on the god's material ground. Bailey Tion High said again, "Big naive, alert. Lord Xianji, stay alert high up in the sky." Zhao Dahan did as he was told. Qian Bell also flew into the air to stay alert. She initially wanted to leave in the chaos, but Long Fei's performance was just too strong. Furthermore, in a row for 2 nights, he let her know that Long Fei was a huge tree that reached the heavens. As long as she hugged him tightly, she would be able to live a life without worries. Furthermore, Long Fei's ability in bed was something she could not forget. Bailey Tion High arranged everything, and also let the phoenix sit by Long Fei's side. He stepped aside himself and thought about what to do next. Long Fei sat in the middle of the god's material ground. Right now, he did not have the energy to cultivate. Instead, he just sat there quietly, letting his body slowly recover. At the same time, he was also organizing the events of the day. He should have been exposed by now. Then, I'm afraid, it was only a matter of time before Xian's would send Powerhouse to kill him, and even Emperor Xian himself would come to kill him. Time was of the essence. He needed to become stronger as soon as possible. The god of underworld was a test of strength for him. He was still unable to contend against the power of the 12-rate ancient dragon body. It was not that the ancient dragon body was not strong. It was just that he was not strong. It was just like a piece of equipment. It was a godly equipment, but the person wearing it was a level 1 newbie. Under such circumstances, it was impossible to bring out the full might of a godly equipment. Upgrade is a long process. It was impossible to reach the highest levels in one fell swoop. What Long Fei needed to do now was to break through the Emperor Swordsman rank. And then again, power of the Emperor. In the sword competition, the power of the Emperor had never appeared. Whether it was against the god of underworld or Xianming Abyss, it seemed to have disappeared. If he could grasp this power, they would be different. Power of the Emperor. How can I completely grasp it? Long Fei pondered. Long Guangdao. Master, I'm sorry, I have never seen this power before. I am unable to help you. Long Fei said. You are even more worried if you have seen me before. Dragon Quang was one of Long Baishan's chess pieces. No matter what Long Baishan's original intentions were, they all made Long Fei feel somewhat unhappy. The powers he cultivated now were things he hoped Long Quang would not understand. The more he understood, the more Long Batian had arranged it. What exactly did Long Batian want to do? Time passed slowly. After 6 hours, the pain on Long Fei's body lessened slightly, and he managed to stabilize his injuries. He opened his eyes. At this moment, it was already night. Long Fei looked around. The brothers of 5 elements stood at the position with the 5 elements. Bailey Tion High looked around, his entire body and mind on guard. Qian Bell was in the sky. Zhao Dahan should be far away. The god's material ground was on their guard. Long Fei's heart relaxed a little as he looked at Phoenix, who was beside him. Phoenix was still unconscious. However, her breathing was stable and wasn't seriously injured, so Long Fei didn't disturb her. Long Fei looked up into the sky. He did not think too much about what Long Baishan's goal was, as Long Batian was Long Batian, and he was him. What he needed to do was to kill Emperor Xian and bring his woman to reunite with his family. As for other things, Long Fei did not think much of them. Of course, if possible, he wanted to find the designer of the system. However, in order to achieve all of these, there was one important step, and that was to become stronger. His strength could not even deal with the lowest level god of Underworld. How could he deal with the Emperor Xian? Thus, what Long Fei needed to do now was to break through and become stronger. He looked at the night sky. The night sky was filled with stars, sparkling faintly like diamonds embedded in a black curtain. Suddenly, just as Long Fei retracted his gaze, his mind slightly sank. A star was exceptionally dazzling. The starlight seemed to form a strange resonance with the power in his body. Strange. The power in my body. This was the first time Long Fei had felt the power of the Emperor, even though it was extremely thin as a cicada's wing. But he felt it. The first few times, he simply could not feel that the release of the power of the Emperor was natural and was not under his control at all. He could truly feel this power. Could it be that the power of the Emperor is aimed at the stars? Long Fei muttered in his heart, no matter what, let's cultivate first. Since the opportunity had presented itself, he would do his best to seize it. The idea withdrew. Immediately, Long Fei carefully sensed the power of the star. The starlight also seemed to be igniting the Emperor energy within his body. They slowly gathered together. A little bit. It was abnormally thin, and Long Fei was incomparably careful. After about 2 hours, the power of the Emperor was as big as a fingernail and rushed into the pubes. At this moment, Long Fei's pubes was incomparably comfortable and warm. The pain in his body also disappeared in an instant. His health point and holy source value had also instantly recovered to its maximum state. It was like he had leveled up. This power has such a powerful attack. Is there still such a powerful self-recovery ability? Almighty attribute, Long Fei was extremely excited. The power of the Emperor caused his pubes to be filled with dense power, and in an instant, Long Fei felt an incomparably abundant amount of spirit. He could feel the opportunity to break through to become a Sword Emperor. In this period of time, Long Fei had been working hard to break through the Emperor's swordsman rank. He had never had the chance to break through. Now, the opportunity suddenly appeared, and there was even a tendency to erupt. Is he about to break through? Is he about to break through the Emperor's swordsman rank? Long Fei's blood started to boil. At this moment, suddenly, a figure landed. Long Fei frowned. He instantly felt that there was someone behind him, retracting his chi, opening his eyes. Who? His gaze shifted. Behind him stood a woman in flaming clothes. The lady's body released an extremely powerful aura. This aura was not any weaker than the aura on God of Underworld's body. Immediately, Long Fei's pupils tightened. The woman did not look at Long Fei, but walked to Phoenix's side and slowly squatted down. Long Fei suddenly stood up and said, "Don't wake her up," unleashing all of his combat strength. The woman stopped and raised her head to look at Long Fei. With the help of the moonlight, Long Fei could clearly see the woman's appearance. Use one word to describe it. A peerless talent. How could there be such a beautiful woman? Just her face was unable to find any flaws. Long Fei's heart trembled slightly. There is actually such a beautiful woman in this world. Long Fei had seen countless beauties before. Even the prettiest girl didn't have much of an effect on him, but the woman in front of him was completely different. Moreover, her eyes, it was actually glowing with a rainbow light. Long Fei was startled for a moment. He immediately thought of the Phoenix's rainbow-colored eyes and asked, "You're someone from the Phoenix Valley?" The lady slowly stood up and looked at Long Fei with her slightly cold eyes. She asked, "You are Long Zhanting's son?" Long Fei replied, "I am." The woman sized Long Fei up from head to toe and said coldly, "Long Zhanting's talent is extraordinary and is rarely seen in the world. Mu Wan'er is intelligent beyond belief. Why would their combination be so unbearable?" Long Fei frowned. The woman said coldly, "You think you can overthrow Xian's? Kill the Emperor Xian? Do you think you can?" Long Fei clenched his fists and said, "I can." A very firm answer. The woman laughed coldly and said, "Can you? You speak so lightly. What are you going to do with it? With your current cultivation? You think you're very strong? Have you ever seen the real Emperor Xian? Do you know how strong the Xians is? Do you know how terrifying the power behind the Xians is? You can. It's a joke to play down a single word. The woman sneered. Long Fei was not happy and said, "If you are here to mock me, very good. You have already done it. You can scram now." The woman said, "Do you think you have the qualifications to be mocked by me?" Long Fei said, "Don't talk about qualifications with me. The people from your Phoenix Valley have already mocked me once, and you want to come again? Is it that interesting?" "Yes, sir. Right now, I am not a match for Emperor Xian, but Emperor Xian will definitely die by my hands." Long Fei's eyes were incomparably resolute. He definitely would kill Emperor Xian. In the blink of an eye, she looked at the phoenix that was lying on the ground and revealed a pained expression. "You can't even protect her. So why are you talking about killing Emperor Xian? Do you know who she is? Do you know that she—" The woman did not continue. Long Fei wanted to know Phoenix's identity, but the woman didn't say it out loud. He wanted to ask her, but he resisted the urge. The woman spoke blandly. "From now on, I will not allow any contact between you two. Understood? You are you, and she is her. In the future, I will not allow any social interaction between you two in the world." While they were talking, the woman gently picked up the phoenix. Long Fei took a step forward, wanting to stop him. However, the woman's eyes twitched. Buzz. Long Fei's body was instantly frozen, unable to move. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move. The woman carried the phoenix and coldly said to Long Fei, "If you want to protect her, then don't look for her. If you dare appear in her world again, I will kill you. I will kill you. I will kill you." Her low voice resonated in Long Fei's mind. At this moment, Long Fei's entire body was as cold as ice. The woman's words were filled with killing intent. His figure moved. The woman, accompanied by the unconscious phoenix, slowly disappeared from the spot. Long Fei was afraid. He knew that the girl had completely disappeared. After half a minute, he let out a heavy breath. Phew! The air formed a white mist. His body was as cold as frost, and the air he exhaled was white. Long Fei clenched his fists tightly and looked at the sky. His heart felt incomparably uncomfortable. It was one thing to be mocked by Yao Laosi once, but to be mocked by Phoenix's aunt once again, and more so. With this one move, he was completely unable to move. The difference in strength. Long Fei could not budge him at all. This was the power of the divine space powerhouse. This was the difference. If this woman was an enemy, Long Fei would already be dead. He couldn't protect the woman beside him. This was the reason why his heart was in pain. The unwillingness in his heart, the anger in his heart slowly ignited. Long Fei clenched his fists, his nails digging into his flesh. He roared fiercely. Ah! Rumble! 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 A furious roar exploded into the sky, and the clouds scattered from the shockwave. Long Fei could only vent his anger in this way. He was filled with unwillingness and helplessness. "I'm too weak. I'm still too weak. I'm still not strong enough." Long Fei roared again. In the midst of this roar, his power was released crazily, causing the entire god's material ground to tremble. The surrounding brothers were all stunned. No one dared speak. They all stood where they were and quietly looked at Long Fei. No one knew what was happening, but they could sense the unwillingness in Long Fei's voice. "I will become stronger. I will trample everyone under my feet." So what if you're a Phoenix Valley? So what if you're Xian's? So what if you're a god of underworld? So what if you have ancient family in the divine space? I, Long Fei, will definitely trample all of you under my feet. I swear. Long Fei shouted towards the sky. His voice was filled with boundless courage. Fresh blood dripped from the gaps of his fingers. Drip, drip, drop by drop, on a god's material ground. The blood was slowly absorbed into the stones of the martial arena. Suddenly, rumble. Long Fei's heart suddenly shook. A huge force rose from the bottom of his feet and quickly entered his body. At the same time, the power of the star in the sky also shone down on his mind like a searchlight, the two forces resonating. Explosions rang out from within his body. Power crazily entered his body, as if a dam had been ignited. What's going on? This is power of the Emperor. Long Fei's heart tightened. All of this happened too suddenly. He had never felt such a powerful force surging in. In the beginning, he could only sense the constantly changing auras in the god's material ground. Just now, he could feel the energy of the stars fusing together to form the power of the Emperor within his body. Such a sudden moment. Long Fei was caught off guard. He lowered his head to look at his own blood dripping onto the ground and quickly absorbed it. Long Fei was startled. Damn, could it be that he was trying to take the treasure while dripping blood? Buzz! A surge of power surged into his pubes. The pubes began to heat up. His abdomen was like a furnace. Long Quang quickly reminded, Master, using your strength to enter the pubes, this is your chance to break through the Emperor's swordsman rank. He started to be questioned by Long Fei, and his heart was in pain, because he simply did not know about Long Baishan's arrangements. In his eyes, Long Fei was Long Baishan's reincarnation, but Long Fei did not think so. In Long Fei's eyes, he was Long Baishan's chess piece. He didn't know how to explain it. If possible, he wanted to leave Long Fei. He did not dare to say anything when Phoenix's aunt appeared. He wanted to help Long Fei, but he did not dare, afraid that Long Fei would say more. However, the opportunity had come, and Long Quang was still unable to hold it in. With Long Quang's reminder, Long Fei immediately understood that the time to break through Emperor Swordsman rank had come. And then, he sat down cross-legged. The moment the idea moved to guide the powerful energy within the pubes, its entire body, its acupoints, limbs, and bones were all filled to the brim with this energy. Long Fei's forehead turned sinister. His eyes stared at the sky as he muttered, Ah, bring it on. Rumble. An explosion sounded in the sky. The star in the night sky suddenly slipped down, like a shooting star. The light became stronger and stronger as it continuously descended. The light was also abnormally glaring, and eventually, the entire god's material ground became as if it was day. What's that? What is this light? Holy sh**t. Boss, is there any danger? Boss. Everyone began to worry. Long Fei didn't have time to reply them right now. He was completely immersed in breaking through to the next realm, so he couldn't hear anything around him. Zhao Dahan rushed forward and shouted, Boss, what is this? The light is going to swallow the boss up. Second brother. Zhao Dahan wanted to rush over, grabbed him and shouted loudly, Don't go over there. No one is going over there. Boss is breaking through to the next realm. Protect. We must not let anyone disturb our boss. Bailey Tianhai did not know either. However, what else could this be other than a breakthrough? Furthermore, he believed that it was only Long Fei who would be so awesome. If it was something else, they wouldn't be able to help even if they went up. Bailey Tianhai looked at Long Fei, who was swallowed by the light, and his heart tensed up. The light shone brightly, completely enveloping Long Fei. The entire god's material ground was the same. The area within a 10,000-kilometer radius was like daytime. From afar, it looked like there was a huge moon in God's material ground. An incomparably bright, white light radiated for thousands of miles. Long Fei could feel an endless amount of power within the light. He used this power to fuse with his own. He was madly breaking through. He did not know what these powers were. However, no matter what kind of power it was, as long as it could make him stronger, he would not care about anything else. Bring it on! Bring it on! Long Fei roared loudly. When he felt that his body was completely filled with this kind of power, his eyes opened in anger, and glints of light shone from them. And then, Long Fei said in a deep voice, Emperor Swordsman rank, open it for me. Ah! Rumble! Energy exploded, frantically gathering in his body. It was as if Long Fei was forging his own Emperor Sword. The Emperor Swordsman rank must be able to condense an Emperor Sword. Now, Long Fei was condensing the Emperor Sword. However, his body was enveloped in light. It was impossible to clearly see the Emperor's sword's shadow on his body, and it was the same for him. Yes. It all depended on luck. Sometimes, luck was the only thing that mattered. Long Fei was currently unable to clearly see what he had condensed, nor was he able to sense just what the strength of this Emperor's sword was. Everything depended on the will of heaven. If the Emperor's sword he condensed was trash, that meant that Long Fei might have to cultivate anew. Even though he had the Holy Source vein mine, it was currently extremely difficult for him to break through. It would take him at least a few years or even dozens of years to rebuild it. At that time, the yellow flowers had turned cold. Bring it on. Long Fei felt that the congealing was about to end, and his eyebrows tightened. He closed his eyes and said, I'm going to stake it all. Now it's all up to the heavens. Boom! The light suddenly shrank. Long Fei's body slightly trembled. Next, everything around him was back to normal. The night sky returned to normal, and the light disappeared. The system also sounded out a notification sound. Ding! It was an incomparably pleasant voice. Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, Sword Emperor level 1. Ding! System notification. Congratulations to player Long Fei for activating Sword Emperor. Do you wish to enter? After breaking through to the Sword Emperor realm, he had also entered the Sword Emperor instance dungeon. Long Fei did not care about the matter of the instance dungeon. As long as it was in the Emperor's swordsman rank, he could enter at any time. He had leveled up. In other words, he had fused the power of the Sword Emperor. The idea moved. He felt his entire body. Long Fei was startled. Nothing. Holy SH asterisk T. Is this F asterisk king playing tricks on me? Long Fei was stunned. Logically speaking, a successful upgrade meant that the Emperor's sword was condensed successfully, but he could not sense anything. Forget about the Emperor's sword. He couldn't even feel a single strand of power. Crippled. Am I crippled? I'm retraining. Long Fei felt a chill in his heart. Other people's Emperor swords could at least look good. But what about him? Nothing. Isn't this too much of a blow? Long Fei carefully tried to sense them again. Just like before. Nothing. Bailey Tianhai quickly walked over and asked, Boss, how is it? Long Fei looked at Bailey Tianhai and said, You came at the right time. I was condensing the Emperor's sword just now. Did you see anything? Under normal circumstances, the people around the Emperor's sword would be able to see the shape of the sword, just like when Lu Sun was condensing the Emperor's sword. Bailey Tianhai said, Boss, just now you were enveloped by a blinding light. We couldn't even see what you're doing, let alone see if it's your fused Emperor's sword. It's over. I should be crippled. Long Fei's body went soft. Long Quang, you shouldn't have seen it, right? Long Quang shook his head and said, I didn't see it either, but it's strange that this should not have happened. Your current cultivation is at the Emperor's swordsman rank, but you still can't see your Emperor's sword. This doesn't make sense. Master, do you want to try again? Long Fei laughed bitterly. It's useless. You tried a few times, but to no avail. It was the same no matter how many times he tried. Long Fei said, Right now, I've already broken through the Emperor's swordsman rank, so even if I have to cultivate again, I'm afraid it's not going to work now, is it? Long Quang nodded. Long Fei stood up, his eyes shooting fire at the sky. He bellowed, Heavens, how long are you going to play with me? How much more suffering do you want me to go through? What else do you want me to do? Why don't you just kill me? Too many things had happened today. It was the appearance of the Xian's S, the god of underworld S, and even the Phoenix's ants. Too much. Long Quang Dao. Master, don't be depressed yet. According to my understanding, such a situation has never occurred before in the history of ancient world. Long Fei said, Now that you have appeared, what can you do? Long Quang Dao. You can't feel the power of your Emperor sword now. Is it related to that star? Or is it because of the power of the Emperor you absorbed in the god's material ground? Maybe. Your Emperor sword is the Emperor Dao. Long Quang was also guessing. After all, he did not see the power of the Emperor's sword condensed on Long Fei's body. Hearing Long Quang's words, Long Fei's heart trembled. That's right. I almost forgot about the way of the emperor. The idea moved and entered the pubes. Immediately, Long Fei's mind suddenly shook. His pubes, an earth-shattering change occurred. His pubes was like an entire galaxy. Just like the Milky Way on TV in his previous life, countless specks of light slowly rotated in the endless void. Long Fei felt as if he was the master of this galaxy. This feeling, it could only be described with one word: shock. What is this? What have my pubes become? Long Fei was stunned by his own pubes. He did not know how to describe it. Long Quang also anxiously said, "Master, what did you see?" He could also sense Long Fei's pubes, but he could not see the world inside the pubes. Long Fei said, "I saw a huge space filled with pubes." He did not say that his pubes had become a galaxy. This was because the matter of the god of underworld resurrecting had made Long Fei wary of the dragon Quang. He could not let all of his power be in Long Baishan's hands. No matter what Long Baishan's goal was. Long Quang Dao, pubes space. Long Fei replied, "Yes, 10,000 times." Long Quang was also secretly shocked and said, "Is the power of the Emperor's sword the transformation of the pubes space?" Long Fei shook his head. "I wonder, what benefits does the pubes space have?" Long Quang Dao, "Of course there are a lot of benefits. The storage of Holy Source S will increase, and pubes S are the source of power for every warrior. The strength of a pubes determines the strength of this person. The enlargement of the pubes' space will be of great help to you, especially after you enter the divine space. You will discover its advantages." Long Fei laughed. "That's good." His current pubes space could not be described as big. Rather, it could be described as limitless. Moreover, there were all sorts of lights inside. What was this? Star? Long Fei thought of the stars that had fallen from the sky, and his heart couldn't help but tremble. Could it be that the stars he got from the sky earlier were a galaxy? Damn, isn't this too awesome? I just don't know what use it has. Can it help me cultivate the way of the Emperor? Long Fei thought. Long Fei was in no hurry to cultivate. At this moment, in the east, the sky was turning white and the sky was about to brighten. Bailey Tianhai asked, "Boss, it's already dawn. What are we going to do next?" Long Fei stood up and said, "Return to the ancient antiquity." Bailey Tianhai said, "Amen, it's time to go back." Long Fei looked into the distance. This time, he came out as the phoenix had left, and Yun, she had also disappeared. However, there was still a woman waiting for him in ancient antiquity, Lu Luoshi. Long Fei did not linger. He summoned his ancient giant rock over, and the group rode on the giant rock back to ancient antiquity. Long Fei did not linger. He summoned his ancient giant rock over, and the group rode on the giant rock back to ancient antiquity. The ancient giant rock now was completely different from when it came. It had been purified into a spiritual king-level flying beast, an existence that could crush 10,000 streets of God's eagle. His speed was extremely fast. Flying in the air, any flying beast would avoid it if they saw it. On the giant rock's back, Long Fei sat cross-legged. He was carefully sensing his pubes. What exactly is the star inside? Did my pubes really become a galaxy? What's the use? To have the pubes turn into a galaxy, this was no doubt a shocking matter. Very powerful. Shocked. At the same time, it was also very depressing, because even now, Long Fei still did not know what this star relate to Dantian could do. What did she bring him? He hadn't found anything special yet. According to Long Quang's words, the pubes was huge, and the holy source value would increase by a lot. But his blue amount didn't change at all. And then there was the power of the Emperor. After the appearance of the star relate to Dantian, Long Fei no longer felt that enormous power, as if it had completely disappeared, had yet to touch the doorstep of power of the Emperor. If the star relate to Dantian is the power of the Emperor, then how should I release this power? Just how should I train? Long Fei locked the space between his brows. He had to become stronger as soon as possible. Time was of the essence. Long Fei didn't have that much time left. It wouldn't be long before Xian's found out his location, and he would definitely send someone over then. If there was another powerhouse of the same level, he would only be oppressed. Thus, he had to become strong before the people from the Xians find him. And Long Fei's only hope now was the power of the Emperor. How exactly do I cultivate the power of the Emperor? Only in the sense that you can grasp it, not entirely by luck. Long Fei was swimming in the star relate to Dantian. He wanted to find the answer. However, in the star relate to Dantian, his idea was like a speck of dust. Humph! After 6 hours, Long Fei still had no idea. Once his thoughts returned to reality, he looked at Bailey Tianhai and asked, "Where are we now?" Bailey Tianhai said, "We're almost there." Long Fei was slightly shocked and said, "That fast?" Zhao Dehan said excitedly. After the transformation of the ancient giant rock, his speed was too fast. The journey which used to take a few days would now only take a few hours. "Ha ha! I wonder what his sister-in-law gave him." Bailey Tianhai glared fiercely at Zhao Dehan. Zhao Dehan also realized that when he mentioned Phoenix, he immediately smiled foolishly and said, "Look, the sun today is so bright." Wu was said, "Big bro, the sun is the same size every day. There's nothing special about it." Cough, cough. Zhao Dehan coughed continuously. Long Fei laughed for a bit, then said, "It's fine. The Phoenix was taken away by his aunt. In the future, we will go to Phoenix Valley to find him." He still remembered that he had promised Phoenix. He brought his protectors, his 5 elements, the 8 King Kong, and 108 Holy General S to the Phoenix Valley to marry her. After the Phoenix left, Long Fei's words had not been forgotten. Zhao Dehan also asked with an excited expression on his face, "When are we going?" Long Fei replied, "I will go. I will definitely go." Thinking of what his Aunt Phoenix had said, "Her world does not allow you to appear. If you dare appear in her world again and disturb her, I will kill you. You are a bane, don't you know that? Look at the people around you. How many are still alive? Do you know why the Dragon Vein Mountain was destroyed? Because of you. Don't you know? You can't beat Xians. You cannot shake the power of the Emperor Xian. Look at you now, you're too weak. You're too weak right now. You don't have the qualifications for me to protect you. I'll think about it when you step into the divine space." What Aunt Phoenix had said, and what Yao Laosi had said, were just like needles stabbing into Long Fei's heart. It was very hard, the unspeakable pain. But no matter how uncomfortable it was, Long Fei had to endure it. He had to endure it. He swore that he would definitely stomp all of these beneath his feet, because he was Long Fei. It's understandable that the Phoenix was taken away by her aunt, but what about Yin Shi? She also mysteriously disappeared and never appeared from the beginning until now. Could something have happened? Bailey Tianhai asked. Everyone was stunned. Yin Shi disappeared too strangely. Without any warning, it had mysteriously disappeared. Long Fei said indifferently, "She should have gone to the divine space. She is a person who had reincarnated and recultivated. She should have disappeared into the divine space this time. And when you enter the divine space, you might be able to see her." She still had some understanding of Yin Shi. Yin Shi was not worried. "I believe we'll meet again in the future." Qian Bell walked to Long Fei's side, bowed slightly, and said humbly, "Master, they have left. I am still here." She did not forget her identity. Long Fei's slave. Beside Long Fei, she had even lowered her posture. Long Fei looked at Qian Bell and said, "You are already a 6th-stage god of heaven cultivator with your current cultivation. Leaving is just a matter of words. Why did you stay? You fused with a natural divine spark, so your cultivation is no longer able to break through. You won't be able to gain anything by staying by my side." Long Fei was telling the truth. She could definitely leave God's material ground. Long Fei would also not look for her anymore. He did not expect Qian Bell to stay. After Long Fei finished speaking, Qian Bell immediately knelt down and said, "All of this servant's possessions were given to me by the Lord. No matter how bold I am, this servant will not dare to leave the Lord's side." Long Fei laughed. "All right, get up." Qian Bell slowly stood up. At this moment, Wu Tu ran over and said, "Boss, look." Long Fei asked, "What's wrong?" Wu Tu pointed to the bottom of the giant rock and said, "There are so many flying mounts." There were more than 10 flying beasts below the ancient giant rock. Many of them were god-level flying beasts. They were all heading in the same direction. Ancient antiquity, Bailey Tianhai frowned. "Look, that's the god's eagle of the Ao Heaven Palace, the Griffin King of the Hong Shan sect, the giant whale of the Heavenly Sea sect. These are all top 100 sects. What are they planning to do?" "Boss, they seem to be flying towards the ancient antiquity. Could it be?" The power of these sects was enormous. Any of the top 100 sects could crush ancient antiquity. Moreover, so many of them all at once. Thinking about what happened in God's material ground, everyone's eyes turned cold. Something is going to happen to ancient antiquity. Long Fei moved and said to the ancient giant rock, "Hurry back to the sect." Chapter 38-39, Fusion of the Ancient Inheritance. Chapter 38-39, Fusion of the Ancient Inheritance. Inside the Vajra pestle, there was a Vajra formation. It was an extremely powerful protective array, and it was what Suwanta had asked Su to bring with him. Outside the defensive formation, it had another use, to send out signals. Seeing the King Kong divine light shooting out, Suwanta immediately knew that something had happened to Su. Immediately, Suwanta could not care about other things. With a move of his, he rushed towards the Night Valley. Array Spirit Light. It seems like the direction of the Night Valley is really the direction of the Night Valley. Lin family, listen up. All troops attack. Disciples of the Chun family, listen up. All soldiers are to be mobilized and enter the Night Valley at once. Faster, go to Night Valley. The purple light flame is in Night Valley. More and more people rushed towards the Night Valley, flying through the forest. The powerhouse quickly charged forward, and the disciples of the various great families also accelerated. They were all searching for the biggest purple gold light. Whoever could obtain it would dominate the East Imperial City. East Imperial City's family would definitely reshuffle. Queen of Blood Moon had also seen the King Kong divine light, and her heart tightened. Long Fei, don't let anything happen to you. Just like Yimei, the 3,000 ghost generals madly rushed forward. It really is the Vajra formation. An Earth Great Array. I never thought that Suwanta would actually be willing to take such an array formation that is worth hundreds of millions of grand mist crystals with him. Lien Kaijiang said coldly. Su said with a face full of pride. How? I am rich. What can you do to me? Actually, she had absolutely no idea how much the Vajra formation was worth. Hearing Lien Kaijiang mention the value of the Vajra formation, her heart soured. Lien Kaijiang disdainfully said, I can't do anything to you right now, but when you, Suwanta, gave you the King Kong formation, did you say that the formation could only last for 3 minutes? He is the peak realm of the Venerable One. However, even his strength could not break through the King Kong true body. However, he wasn't in a hurry. This type of powerful defensive formation had a fatal weakness and required a powerful true spirit to support it. Otherwise, it would only last for a short period of time. 3 minutes. It was the limit of Su's time. Su's heart sank and said, Humph, with your knowledge, you still know formations? Since you know that this is the protective spirit artifact my father gave me, then you should also know that my father is definitely prepared. If you're unable to break this formation for 3 hours, then come and try. The corner of Lien Kaijiang's eyes twitched. Indeed, Suwanta was unfathomably deep. Would he inject more true soul into the Vajra pestle? I can't say. Just then, a Lien family disciple hurried over and said, Master, there are a lot of other families and forces approaching the Night Valley. Lien Kaijiang's expression darkened even more. If the King Kong formation could really last for 3 hours, then with Suwanta's cultivation speed, he would be able to make it even to East Imperial City. We can't wait. Lien Kaijiang's heart tightened, and he immediately shouted, Charge! As soon as he finished, The Lin family disciples immediately started to attack the King Kong formation. One after another attacks came out. The flames on the King Kong array were all over the place. All the energy was being absorbed by the array, and it did not move at all. Earth-ranked formations, they were primarily meant for defense. It wasn't something that could be broken with normal strength. The three sisters were slightly better as they looked at Su Su and asked, "How long can this formation last for?" Su Su shook his head. "I don't know, but my father told me to use it at the most critical time, so it should be able to last for a bit longer." An old man asked heavily, "Are you really Su Wantu's daughter?" He couldn't get over it. Su Su nodded his head and said, "I am Su Wantu's daughter, and I know that father has killed many people from the Night Valley clan. However, my father is the city lord, and the responsibility is on him." The few elders' eyes turned cold. Big Sister said quickly, "Now is not the time to talk about this. To think of a way to stop the Lin family's army. How long will it take for the people from the other tribes to arrive?" An elder said, "They've already sent someone to inform us. We'll need at least an hour to get there. This formation can support us." Not waiting for him to finish. Under Lin Kaijiang's fists, a ball of dark red power caused his robes to emit popping noises from the force. Long winds flew everywhere, and the veins on his forehead popped out. In an instant, boom! Lin Kaijiang's fists exploded, heavily smashing down. Bam! The Vajra pestle shook. Su Su was so shocked that his arm became numb and was about to fall off. The barrier was about to break. Lin Kaijiang's eyes flashed a ray of light and became excited. "Ha! The King Kong formation is only SOSO. All the disciples listen to my orders and attack the crack." Bam! Bam! Rumble! Rumble! Crazy attacks. The cracks slowly started to crack. At this moment, Lin Kaijiang began to charge up his strength again. Su Su's gaze tensed up. She steadied her horse stance, both hands grabbing onto the Vajra pestle tightly. No matter what, she had to make the array barrier last longer, and she was extremely anxious in her heart. "Big Brother Long Fei, why aren't you here yet? I'm almost unable to hold on any longer." The three Yimei sisters quickly replied, "People of Night Valley clan, listen up. Form a formation and prepare to fight. For the glory of Night Valley clan. For our home." Although the three sisters were heavily injured, they still entered a battle-ready state. The rest of the Night Valley clan people did the same. Half a minute later, Lin Kaijiang's fists exploded and once again released a heavy sound. "Break for me." Rumble. His two fists collided against the fissure. Kacha. Crack. Lin Kaijiang's body shot out 10 meters and once again moved, looking down from above. "Break for me." His fists descended once again. Boom. Cracks covered the entire barrier. Walala. Suddenly, Su Su's hands shook so hard that they were bleeding, and her arms were almost dislocated. She no longer had the strength to hold the Vajra pestle as it slid down from her hands. Bam! It fell to the ground, and at the same moment, the King Kong formation shattered. Her internal organs were all injured, and she was in incomparable pain. She turned her head to the depths of the underground palace and muttered, "Big Brother Long Fei, come quickly." Lin Kaijiang laughed sinisterly. "Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive." Then, he transformed into a streak of light, charging directly into the depths of the underground palace. The speed was too fast. No one could stop him. He couldn't wait. Not a second. He knew that when Su Wantu arrived, and those old monsters from the Dongwon College arrived, even if he found out about the power of the Purple Gold God's tribe, it wouldn't be his turn to use it. At this moment, the green dragon smiled slightly and said, "Child, you have finished absorbing the ancient inheritance's energy. How do you feel? What type of power is this ancient inheritance?" The corner of Long Fei's mouth lifted, and he started laughing. Greetings back to the sect. 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 The moment the ancient giant rock landed, the surroundings were densely packed with people, and most of these people were people from various large sections. Elders, disciples, and some of them were the new sect leaders. Their actions stunned the people of ancient antiquity, Long Fei and the others even more so. What's the situation? They're called Dragon Prosperous? Who is it? Is it that brat Long Fei? Who else could it be other than him? I was just wondering why people from the big sects would suddenly visit our ancient antiquity. It's actually because of him. As expected, Grand Elder is right. This group of kids obtained first place. Haha, did you see that? Did you see those sects that used to be so high up in the sky? Many of the ancient antiquity disciples were in high spirits and were extremely excited. I've never seen anything like it. Right now, he felt as if he was above everyone else. In their hearts, they also felt respect for Long Fei. Their glory were all brought by Long Fei, and in their hearts, they felt as if he was a god. If not for Long Fei, how many people would know about their ancient antiquity? Those first-rate sects would come here. Would he even glance at them? They were extremely grateful to Long Fei. Long Fei stood on top of the ancient giant rock, looked around at the various sects elders, and was stunned for a moment. Zhao Dehan was also stunned and said, "Are these people sick?" The sect masters and elders who killed them, they still came to pay their respects. "Damn, is there something wrong with your head?" Bailey Tianhai said, "It's not hard to understand. There has never been an eternal hatred between us, but there have been permanent benefits for Boss. Not only did Boss beat the others in God's material ground, even for the Divine Space's powerhouse, he couldn't do anything to Boss, so how powerful must Boss be? Even if the sect master and elders of the sect die, they know how to weigh the benefits. If they don't cooperate with our sect, our boss might just destroy them one day." It was exactly as Bailey Tianhai had said. It didn't matter if the Grand Master was dead. He could choose another one. It didn't matter even if the Elder died. He could make up for it. But if the sect was destroyed, then it would truly be gone. No matter what kind of strong enemy Long Fei offended, it was a matter of the divine space. In this mortal world, they were one head lower than Long Fei. Coming to the docks. After that, ancient antiquity would be the #1 sect in the mortal world. In addition, they knew that the ancient antiquity possessed the veins of the holy source and unparalleled cultivation resources, allowing the disciples of the sect to become strongest emperor swordsmen-esque. This was a sect that the mortal world simply could not afford to offend. Combined with these two, the top sects in the mortal world would have to kneel in front of the ancient antiquity. Even the Sword Sky sect that was presided over by Song Guqing had to send people to pay respects, because this could determine the fate of the sect. Zhao Dehan scratched his head and said, "Damn, so this is the way of the world? The person who killed them is here to give them gifts." Bailey Tianhai said, "This is the powerhouse world. Let alone killing their sect master. It would be the same even if I killed their own father." Long Fei smiled and said, "Don't they have Xians as their backing?" Bailey Tianhai asked, "Xians?" In the gods' material ground, Xianming Abyss did not even see them as human beings, so why would the Xians take them as human beings? Furthermore, the Xians is the ancient family of the divine space, so the mountains are too far away from them to care about. They could only come here to pay their respects to you, boss. Although these people have no backbone, but if we make good use of them, they might be a pretty good force. Although Bailey Tianhai did not know how strong the Xians was, he knew very clearly that just relying on 1 or 2 people was not enough to defeat the Xians. If they wanted to deal with the powerful, aristocratic families of the divine space, then they had to be strong themselves. In the mortal world, the human gifts could not compare to the ancient families, but with more ants and elephants, as long as they could be used properly, they could be considered a huge force. Long Fei did not think about all these, but Bailey Tianhai had to think about this. Otherwise, what was the point of him staying by Long Fei's side? Cultivation base? Can't compare to Zhao Dehan. Talent? Cannot compare to the brothers of 5 elements. He could only come up with ideas for Long Fei and think of other things for him in the future. The reason why he had so many brains was so that he could use them to do this. Long Fei understood the meaning behind Bailey Tianhai's words and said, Do whatever you want to do. Bailey Tianhai replied, Understood. Although Long Fei despised these people, what Bailey Tianhai said was reasonable. And then again, the high and mighty powerhouse of the divine space did not even put mortals in their eyes at all. Those who got their hands on the divine space would become cannon fodder, and it would be impossible to survive in the divine space as long as they were willing to discriminate. You are mortals, and to them, who consider themselves to be gods, you are ants, slaves, allowing them to enslave you. Resistance? He directly crushed it to death. Long Fei walked down the giant rock. Many sect elders immediately rushed forward, all of them bowing and bowing, stepping on all kinds of legs towards Long Fei, wishing they could lick his shoes. Long Fei also did not have the hostility of the god's material ground, so it could be considered as bowing with a smile. In the distance, Great Elder Meng too led many elders of the ancient antiquity and the peak owner of the 7 peaks to wait. Aside from the fact that King of Sword Elves' expression was slightly unpleasant, the other peak owneress faces were all completely red, and they no longer had any intentions of targeting Long Fei. Right now, Long Fei's position could be said to be even higher than the Great Clan Elder, and was already a god in the eyes of all the disciples in ancient antiquity. Long Fei walked forward, hugged his hands, and said, Great Elder! Meng Tu immediately stepped forward, happily grabbed on a Long Fei's hand, and said, Good boy, you really didn't disappoint me. Take a look. Look, this honor was given to ancient antiquity by you. I must thank you. He spoke with incomparable excitement. Long Fei said, I am from the ancient antiquity. I should be the one to fight for the honor of the sect. All right, well said. Meng Tu's eyes became moist. He had never been so excited before. He tightly held onto Long Fei's hands and loudly announced, From today onwards, ancient antiquity will celebrate for 3 days, all disciples and elders twice as many. As soon as he finished, the entire sect was in an uproar. Long Fei also faintly smiled. Meng Tu said loudly, Come, follow me to the hall. Honored guests, let's go to the main hall to enjoy the fruits together. Meng Tu dragged Long Fei and walked towards the great hall. The two of them walked to the front. Long Fei was not interested in the party at all. He only knew one thing that the ancient antiquity was worried about. Was Luluashi back yet? Thus, he immediately asked, Great Elder, did Luluashi return from Dongwang mountain range? Luluashi, the woman that Long Fei was always worried about. After not seeing her for a few months, Long Fei had no choice but to suspect that something had happened to her. He had come back in a hurry because he was worried about her. The Great Clan Elder frowned and said softly, Let's talk about this later. With so many distinguished guests present, we must do our host's duty. In addition, I also want to know what happened at God's material ground. After all, so many sect elders had come. Long Fei could not reject the Great Clan Elder's respect. He could only agree. However, the more the Great Clan Elder didn't say anything, the more worried Long Fei became. He shouldn't be back yet. I wonder how Uncle Fong is doing. Long Fei called Wu Hua over. Go to North Peak and see if Uncle Fong has returned. Wu Hua did not linger and immediately rushed back to North Peak. A group of people majestically entered the Great Hall. The palace had already prepared all sorts of strange fruits, and they were all good items to raise one's cultivation. Since ancient antiquity had become the #1 sect, they naturally could not be too petty. Furthermore, these things were far inferior to the gifts that the various sects had sent over. Come. Everyone, please take a seat. Meng Tu welcomed her warmly. However, Long Fei was not interested. In another place, Divine Space Profound God Mountain, Xian's headquarters. A huge mountain range floated in the middle of the sky. The surroundings of the mountain range were filled with dense heaven and earth spirit energy. A holy source vein mine that stretched for millions of kilometers wrapped around the profound God Mountain, and those streaks of heaven and earth holy source were visible with the naked eye, becoming extremely dense. The entire mountain range was situated on the veins of the holy source. The powerful holy source held up everything. An entire mountain range was suspended in the air. How terrifying was this power? The holy source vein mine was something that every clan would want to obtain. It was the most precious cultivation resource in the ancient world and also the best cultivation resource. The divine space's vein mine was even more precious, and this was also the reason why the Xians was able to quickly rise to power. But such a huge vein mine with holy source was floating in midair. Who wouldn't want it? However, no one dared, because this was Xian's territory, Xian's headquarters. Because of fear, no one dared to covet it. What did you say? That brat Long Fei appeared in ancient world? What door is that Long Wuxian fellow guarding at? Isn't he supposed to be guarding the entrance of Universal Realm? Is he asleep? Useless thing. Within a large hall of the mysterious God Mountain, the white-robed elder's body glowed with an extraordinary light. They were all elders of the Xians. Furthermore, his cultivation had reached such a terrifying level. A disciple said, "This disciple doesn't know. Since that remnant of the Long family has appeared, what are we waiting for? Just send someone to kill him." "You're right. This kid pisses off Master. We have to kill him," several elders said in a low voice. A purple-haired elder said, "Master should be in the ancient Ashura abyss now. His spiritual sense cannot penetrate that place, and we can't find the old man. His spiritual sense can't come out either. This Long Fei brat wants to kill me. However, he has already arrived in the ancient world. He should have let the Master know about it before issuing the order." Emperor Xian brought 2 outer space powerhouses into the abyss of the ancient Ashura. This place was very special. Once you entered, no divine sense would be able to enter. It was like a special map within a game. Long Fei was definitely someone Emperor Xian wanted to kill. However, that was outside of ancient world. Now that Long Fei had entered the ancient world, how was the Emperor Xian going to deal with him? Everyone wanted to avenge their own deaths and to behead their enemies. After all, the Emperor Xian hated Long Fei to the bones. If they did not do well and provoked the Master's displeasure, then they would really be out of luck. As the other white-haired elders heard the purple-haired elder's words, they also froze. Indeed, Long Fei was already in ancient world. If they went beyond their authority, wouldn't it be too much? He killed the disciple of our Xians. Is this matter all right? That won't do. When did our Xians ever suffer such a loss? Since we haven't been able to find the Master yet, we can't ignore this matter. Third brother, you're the law enforcement elder. If Master is not here, then your words are in order. The purple-haired elder thought for a moment, then said, "Of course we can't ignore this matter. If Master isn't happy about us killing that brat right away, then let a dead man do it for us." "Who?" The purple-haired elder laughed coldly. "Long Wuxian." The few elders immediately laughed. It's his fault that he didn't defend the gate. He should have taken action. The Dragon Clan's Dragon Clan. If he, Long Wuxian, can't even deal with this brat, then there's no use in keeping this dog. "You're right," the purple-haired elder said. "Someone come." A disciple walked into the hall. The purple-haired elder said, "Send a telepathic message to Long Wuxian. Tell him to go to the ancient antiquity. Tell him the person he wants to wait for is there. If he doesn't do it well, then he doesn't have the qualifications to be a dog for the Xians. Not qualified to be a dog. Then there would be no value at all. To this kind of person who had no value, the Xians would never let him live." The disciple immediately nodded and said, "Yes, sir." The disciple walked out. The few elders smiled faintly. Following that, an elder thought of something and said, "Ancient antiquity, third brother. If you didn't say it earlier, I would have forgotten. It seems that a small team from the Xians went to this mortal sect. It seems like he has taken a fancy to a woman with a sacredine body and wants to offer her up to the Master." The purple-haired elder's eyes flashed with a cold light. Serene body? It actually appeared in the mortal world. All right then. The war for the god of boundary is about to begin. The women with the serene body are actually quite good cultivation resources for the master. When master returns from the ancient Ashura abyss, he will definitely be happy to give this sacred Een woman to him. What? He has already entered the ancient world? Doggy, after receiving the divine sense, sound transmission from the profound God Mountain, suddenly stood up, and the flames on his body reached a height of 30 meters. He had waited here for a long time, but he had not expected Long Fei to come in already. Tell the third elder that I will definitely bring that son of 8B *TCH to the mysterious God Mountain. Long Wushan knew that the only way for him to survive was to take Long Fei's head in order to prove that he was valuable. He was afraid of the Emperor Xian. He was afraid of death. The Dragon Vein Mountain was gone. He didn't care as long as he was alive. Long Fei, you son of a bitch, it's all because of you that the Dragon Clan became like this. I'll definitely kill you with my own hands. Long Wushan let out a furious roar as his figure turned into a shooting star and instantly flashed towards the ancient Lime Mountain. The banquet ended. The banquet ended. He bid farewell to the distinguished guests from the various sections. Meng Tu's face flushed red. He had drank quite a lot today, but he had never been as happy or as high-spirited as he was today. Regardless of what sect it was, all cultivators had to give him a toast and treat him with utmost respect. This feeling was hard to describe. It was a little like floating in the air. The crowd dispersed. Meng Tu held Long Fei's hand tightly and said, "Good boy, I really need to thank you, really need to thank you. It was you who allowed the ancient antiquities fame to shake the 4 seas. Who dares to look down on us now? You don't know, back in a clan congress, these sects wouldn't even look at us. At that time, I swore that sooner or later, they would look at us differently. You did it. Long Fei, I thank you." While they were talking, Meng Tu bowed 90 degrees towards Long Fei as tears streamed down his face. Long Fei immediately held Meng Tu up and said, "Great elder, quickly get up. I am also a part of the sect, so it is only right for me to work hard for the sect." Meng Tu comforted her. If only everyone in ancient antiquity was like you. Many people are selfish. They even colluded with the outer sect. Sai, as the great elder, under the circumstances where the sect master was in closed-door cultivation, he had too many matters to attend to. However, some things were not something he could manage just because he wanted to. Long Fei said, "Great clan elder, you will get better in the future. Everyone is very united now." Meng Tu said, "This is also because of you. It was you who brought cohesion to the ancient antiquity. You are a god of the ancient antiquity." Long Fei said, "Great clan elder, you have overestimated me." "Right. Lu Luoshi, did you find it?" During this half a night, Long Fei was still the most concerned about this problem. Lu Luoshi was very important to him. Meng Tu's brows slightly tightened. He looked at Long Fei, gently shook his head, and said, "Sorry, I didn't find it for you." Long Fei let out a light breath. He had already expected this result. It was just that, hearing it from Meng Tu's mouth, he was still a little disappointed. Meng Tu said, "Don't worry. Even if we have to dig 3 feet into the ground, I will definitely help you find her." Long Fei said, "Great clan elder, do you have any leads?" Meng Tu's eyes twitched. He paused for a few seconds and said, "Not at the moment, but I will definitely do my best to accomplish what I promised you." "Don't worry." Meng Tu had some suspicions, but he did not say anything. He was worried that something would happen. Long Fei said, "If you have any leads, just tell me. She's extremely important to me. If you have any leads, I can look for them myself." Meng Tu patted Long Fei's shoulder and said, "Don't worry. I will definitely help you find her." "Right." Did Powerhouse, who did not have a divine space, pick you up this time? Meng Tu felt very puzzled. Logically speaking, those divine space Powerhouse-S would definitely take a fancy to Long Fei and bring him into the divine space after he achieved such good results. But they were all back. He asked Lu Sun. Lu Sun did not say anything. It was obvious that Lu Sun was no longer his person. Long Fei shook his head. "No, that's strange. Don't worry. It's their loss that the divine space powerhouse S don't fancy you. Don't be discouraged by the fact that people from the divine space will come to our sect to select disciples these few days. At that time, I will definitely recommend you. Your cultivation, your talent, is too strong. They are different from the divine powerhouses. The ones who came to ancient antiquity are the real ancient families, large families. Don't worry, they will definitely want you. Meng Tu was very confident. He was very confident in Long Fei. He had never seen anyone stronger than Long Fei. A monstrous genius. How could someone who could even instantly kill God's powerhouse not be strong? Long Fei laughed. He did not refuse. He also wanted to enter the divine space, but before this, he wanted to find Lu Luoshi, and now, Lu Luoshi was the only person he was concerned about. Meng Tu looked at Long Fei, but was not happy at all. Don't worry about Lu Luoshi. I'll definitely give you an answer in a few days. Long Fei said, then I'll be troubling Great Clan Elder. If there's nothing else, I'll be returning to the North Peak first. Meng Tu said, go, have a good rest. Cultivate properly in the next few days, and prepare for the selection of the divine space. Long Fei nodded and left the hall. After Long Fei left, Meng Tu's eyes trembled slightly. An old servant walked out from beside him. He looked at Long Fei's disappearing figure and whispered, Master, why didn't you say it out loud? Meng Tu said solemnly, there is no absolute evidence. If we are wrong, this will affect the ancient antiquity. The old servant said, this matter should be done by the king of Sword Elves. There is a secret world in the Sword Elf Mountain, I suspect. He did not continue. Meng Tu said, I only suspect that there is no evidence. Absolute evidence must be obtained. The old servant said, as long as you tell this to Long Fei, king of Sword Elves will definitely. Meng Tu interrupted, if I told him, the Sword Elf Mountain would probably be gone in an hour. The ancient antiquity needs to be strengthened now. The sword sect is indispensable. The old servant did not speak again. Meng Tu wanted the ancient antiquity to become stronger, so he thought about the future of the ancient antiquity. Moreover, to a warrior, a woman was of no help at all. She was a hindrance to him, and he did not wish for Long Fei to neglect his training for a woman. Men only had the goal of becoming stronger. Those who had attained the highest realm were people who were unfettered. He wouldn't stop just because of a woman. Long Fei was a man that could become one of the highest realm, and women would only become his stumbling block. This was something that Meng Tu did not wish to see. However, Meng Tu pondered for a moment, then said, I think it's best if I take a trip to Sword Elf Mountain, North Peak. Seeing that Long Fei had returned, Wu Hua immediately ran over and said, Boss, Uncle Fong is still not back yet. Zhao Dahan said, Uncle Fong, will something happen to you? This is the Dongwang mountain range, after all. Long Fei shook his head. I don't think so. Uncle Fong is a God-state cultivator, so he should be able to protect himself. Qin Xianbel also said, Dongwang mountain range is too big. If you want to find someone, it's even harder than looking for a needle in a haystack. Wu Shui comforted her. Boss, Uncle Fong will find him. Don't worry. Long Fei laughed. It's all right. I've been tired recently. Let's go train. Qin Xianbel said gently, Master, the rooms have been cleaned up. Do you want to go to bed now? Her words made everything clear. The surrounding people immediately dispersed, all of them understanding. Long Fei said faintly, Go to sleep first. I want to be quiet by myself. Qin Xianbel bowed and said, Yes. Then he shifted his waist like a water snake, twisting and turning. That back alone was enough to kill someone. Long Fei had something on his mind, so he was not in the mood to do other things. Sword Elf Mountain. Sword Elf Mountain. The violet bamboo, sword forest. Meng Tu stood there with his hands behind his back. Not far away, King of Sword Elves walked over slowly. When he saw Meng Tu, he bowed slightly and said, Great Elder. Meng Tu turned around and glanced at King of Sword Elves. King of Sword Elves asked, I wonder why Great Clan Elder is visiting us so late in the night? Meng Tu said in a bland voice, You should know in your heart what I am here for. King of Sword Elves, you are a peak owner of the Sword Peak. You should be more magnanimous in your conduct of things. Don't make a fuss over nothing. King of Sword Elves acted as if he didn't know what you were talking about, and said, Great Clan Elder, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand. Meng Tu let out a deep breath and went straight to the point. Where is Luluashi? Hand it over. King of Sword Elves was still pretending to be stupid and said, Luluashi went to Donghuang Mountain Range to gain experience. Don't you know about this? Meng Tu's eyes became tight, and his tone became somewhat angry, and he said, You could deceive others, but can you deceive me? I know you hate Long Fei, but you know his cultivation. You have seen the glory he brings to ancient antiquity. You are also an old man of ancient antiquity. Can't you be more magnanimous? What's the point of capturing his woman? The King of Sword Elves was enraged and said, Great Clan Elder, as long as you have evidence, do you have it? Evidence. Meng Tu coldly snorted and said, That night, the reason Lu Luashi ran down the North Peak was so that he could rely on Long Fei. It was you who stopped him. Your eldest disciple, Ling Yuan, is also with you. Do you want me to continue? The center of King of Sword Elves' brows tightened and said solemnly, Great Clan Elder, I did stop her, but I did not capture her. She disappeared by herself, and I'm also unsure where she went. Then there's that dog Long Fei. What is he? A disciple who came from the outer sect. What right does he have to be so high and mighty? What right does he have to ride on our heads? What the hell is he? Even if he brings glory to the ancient antiquity, so what? Let alone I did not catch Lu Luashi. Even if I did, I would not let him go. Lu Luashi is my disciple. I groomed her, her woman. Why? I don't agree with this marriage. The King of Sword Elves argued. He already hated Long Fei to the bones, so why should he let Lu Luashi go? Absolutely impossible for Long Fei to be able to cause such a ruckus in the clan congress. His cultivation was already something that the King of Sword Elves could not shake. Lu Luashi was the only trump card he had to deal with Long Fei. He had to make good use of it. It was his only chance for revenge. Meng Tu said, Stop being so stubborn. King of Sword Elves laughed coldly and said, Am I stubborn? Ha ha ha. Meng Tu, it's you instead, the dignified great clan elder and acting sect master of your sect, giving Long Fei some respect at every turn. Why is that? Do you know what you say in private? They say you're Long Fei's grandson. Meng Tu is not angry. Indeed, the reason why he had bowed to Long Fei every single time was because he knew how terrifying Long Fei was. Meng Tu said, Do you still remember that day during the inner sect examination, a god's powerhouse attacked? King of Sword Elves replied, Of course I remember. Meng Tu said, At that time, it was pitch black and no one could see clearly what was happening within the darkness. Everyone thought that I was the one who killed the god's powerhouse. But, not really. It was Long Fei who killed the god's powerhouse. King of Sword Elves' gaze tensed up and his mind trembled. Meng Tu continued, That god's powerhouse came from a powerful family called Dark Temple of the Divine Space. The space between King of Sword Elves' eyebrows tightened once again. Meng Tu said, Long Fei only used one move to kill that god's powerhouse. I only used one move. A crease formed between King of Sword Elves' eyebrows. He wanted to use the divine powerhouse to deal with Long Fei, but what was the realm of Long Fei at that time? Immortal swordsman rank? He had killed a 6th ranked Empyrean god with a single blow? How terrifying was this? Meng Tu continued, Such a terrifying genius. His cultivation level alone is enough to annihilate ancient antiquity. Such a powerhouse. How can I not be courteous? Not to mention giving 3 points of respect, even if I have to kneel on the ground, it would be a type of honor. I'm telling you these things. You should know what kind of person you're dealing with. Meng Tu said indifferently, This time, there are many things in Clan Congress that I do not know, but I can guarantee that Long Fei's cultivation is much stronger than at that time. Imagine it. Is he still someone you can deal with? King of Sword Elves, you're in a hurry to stop now. I will plead for you. Don't be wrong again. King of Sword Elves had always thought that no matter how strong Long Fei was, he wouldn't be a match for him. But hearing Meng Tu's words, his heart sank even more. He had never thought that Long Fei was this strong. What if the divine powerhouse that came this time wasn't a match for Long Fei? What would the consequences be? King of Sword Elves didn't dare to think further. Meng Tu took the chance and replied, I'm still level. King of Sword Elves' face darkened. His fists clenched tightly as he calmed himself down and said, Great Clan Elder, I really do not know what you mean by saying all these. Lu Luoxi is my prized disciple. I'm also very concerned about where she is right now. King of Sword Elves would never admit it. He didn't know if Meng Tu was blowing him up. Meng Tu said indifferently, King of Sword Elves, Divine Powerhouse will be coming here to select you in a few days. I hope that you can consider it carefully when the time comes. With Long Fei's talent, entering the divine space is an easy task. Think about it carefully. Finished. Meng Tu turned and left, leaving King of Sword Elves by himself, his eyes tightly knitted together, his tightly clenched fists suddenly moving. Boom, boom, boom. The sword chi was like thunder. They spread out and destroyed half of the violet bamboo forest. He thought he had Long Fei's weakness, but he had underestimated Long Fei. He defeated a 6-stage god's powerhouse in one move. This sentence kept going around in his mind. This caused him to feel extremely agitated. However, he never thought of letting Lu Luoxi go. I don't believe it. I have never lost before in my life. This time, I will absolutely not lose. Absolutely not. King of Sword Elves roared from the bottom of his heart. His killing intent was extremely oppressive. North Peak. Long Fei sat cross-legged, comprehending the pubes, wanted to understand the star relate to Dantian thoroughly. But he had always been thinking about Lu Luoxi, and he didn't have a clue when it came to the star relate to Dantian, so he was a little fidgety in his heart. Cultivating under these circumstances was of no use to him. Just as Long Fei wanted to retract his thoughts, a voice came out from inside the god's pavilion. Can you let me use your pubes' power a little? I don't need to say anything. A little is enough. Can you let me use some of the pubes' power? Can you let me use some of the pubes' power? This voice came from the god's pavilion. Long Fei was startled. He didn't quite understand what was going on. The god's pavilion was something he had obtained at the auction. According to the Phoenix, it should be the most ancient holy artifact that he had ever seen in the ancient world. As long as a soul entered, it could be nurtured. A very powerful super artifact. The last time Long Fei obtained a system reward, it was because of the soul of the king of Hen tribe. Give it to the god's pavilion to raise. From then on, Long Fei didn't have anything to do with this matter. He did not expect the god's pavilion to suddenly make a sound just now, saying that he wanted his strength. The god's pavilion was an ancient super holy artifact, and according to the Phoenix's words, its power was extremely strong. But now, it actually wanted Long Fei's power? What was Long Fei's cultivation? It's just an Emperor Swordsman rank. It doesn't even have a god state. He actually wanted his strength? This made Long Fei a little confused. What? Long Fei asked suspiciously, as he thought he had heard wrongly. God's Pavilion said seriously once again, Can I borrow a bit of your pubes' power? 1 point. This time it was very clear. Long Fei also stopped very clearly. However, Long Fei was still a little stunned and said, You are the God's Pavilion. You are one of the first group of super artifact in the ancient world. You want to borrow my power? I didn't hear wrong, right? God's Pavilion grinned. Although he was a little unhappy, he still lowered his attitude and said, If you want to mock me, then you did it. I'll ask you now, do you want to borrow it? He had never lowered his voice like this before. However, Long Quang couldn't feel the power inside Long Fei's pubes. He could feel it. Star relate to Dantian. The power in it was too strong, too strong. He longed for it too much. That was why he was so careful with his words. It was as if he was afraid Long Fei would reject him. Long Fei said, I'll borrow, but when God's Pavilion heard Long Fei say borrow, he immediately became excited and said, That's enough. Your condition should be for me to teach you how to cultivate your pubes' power right. Long Fei asked, You know about it? God's Pavilion said, I don't know much, but I do know a bit more than you. I will tell you the truth. It is so good that I want to kill you and rob your house. Huh? Long Fei was startled. Couldn't help but be shocked by these words. But Long Fei didn't feel that his luck was good. God's Pavilion said, You might not know how strong your pubes is, but do you think that other people's Emperor Swordsman rank can produce the power of a life Emperor Sword? Long Fei said, basically, it's more or less what you said. Ignorant. God's Pavilion immediately shouted out, and was even very angry, but thinking about how he was going to borrow Long Fei's strength later on, his tone became a lot more gentle. Since ancient times, what kind of genius have I never seen before? What kind of Emperor Sword did you fuse with? I have never seen it before. Heaven's mandate, holy artifact. Heavenly sword, earth sword, elemental sword. Heaven power, emperor power, emperor power. I've seen all of this before, but the cultivation realm that they reached was only the pinnacle of the ancient realm. They're unable to surpass it, unable to break through, because their power of life is restricted, and they're destined to never be able to break through the ancient world. But you're different. What you have fused with is a unique power, which is also your pubes. The pubes may not be the most important place in the ancient world, but if you want to leave the ancient world, then the pubes level is extremely important. Normal powerhouses' pubes are simply unable to withstand the power of the other realms. But the power that grows within your pubes is different. Not only can you withstand the impact from the other realms, you can also do it with ease. The God's Pavilion said excitedly, his tone filled with boundless yearning. But Long Fei was not the least bit interested in what he had said, because he couldn't even beat the ancient world, yet he still wanted to walk out. Long Fei didn't think that far. He was thinking of how to destroy the Xians. Long Fei said, All of this doesn't seem to be that strong. It just makes my body a little stronger. As for strength, what is strength? God's Pavilion was stunned. He was so angry that he was about to jump, and said, Ignorant, ignorant. Long Fei said, You were also told to me that these are all useless. I do not have such a vast goal. I just want to know how to cultivate the power of the pubes and how strong it is after training. It's that simple. If you know, then tell me. That was the main point. As for entering the outer realm, Long Fei had not thought of it at the moment. God's Pavilion was furious and said, Ignorant fool, I didn't think that your eyes would be so shallow. You have truly disappointed me. Long Fei immediately retorted, Do you want to borrow the power of my pubes? Immediately, God's Pavilion was instantly impotent as he revealed a fawning smile and said, Lin, borrow. He immediately became quiet. It could be seen that the power within Long Fei's pubes was extremely important to the God's Pavilion. Long Fei said, How about this? Then talk to me properly. How do you want to cultivate the power within my pubes? God's Pavilion said, Actually, I don't know how to cultivate it, but if you can lend me some strength first, I'll definitely figure out. F***K your sister. Are you kidding me? Long Fei cursed. God's Pavilion said, Don't be in such a hurry. Just listen to me finish speaking. I don't know for now, but have you forgotten that I have a ruthless character here? Long Fei immediately thought of the king of Hen tribe and said, King of Hen tribe? God's Pavilion said, I don't know her name, but I know that with my power, if I want to awaken her soul and be able to fight, my power will not be enough. The reason I wanted to borrow your power is also because I want to wake up her soul. I didn't want to do it for myself. I did it for you. The words were very moving. He looked selfless. Long Fei didn't completely believe him, but hearing God's Pavilion say this, he really wanted to know if King of Hen tribe was able to awaken his spirit. If she could wake up and fight, then this world would probably be overturned. All of a sudden, Long Fei became excited. He could only suppress the excitement in his heart and asked, I will believe you. God's Pavilion immediately expressed his loyalty. Oh heavens and earth, I really want to help you awaken this powerful divine soul. But with my current strength, it will take at least 1,000 years to do so, You don't want to do that, right? I swear. I swear on my character that I just want to help you. Long Fei said, don't you have any selfish motives? Air, God's pavilion said, I just want to see how strong this divine soul is when it wakes up. In addition, furthermore, I also want to know how strong the strength of the pubes is. It's really like that. After he finished speaking, he looked at Long Fei with a serious expression. Long Fei was quiet for a moment, then revealed a look of reluctance. For the sake of the soul, I will lend it to you. Long Fei was helpless. Long Fei was helpless. The star relate to Dantian was simply too big. He simply did not know how to grasp it, nor did he know how to convert the power within it into his own. Facing the star relate to Dantian, he was a little powerless in his heart. For the past 2 days, he had been like a headless fly. He kept bumping around and trying, but to no avail. Furthermore, the star relate to Dantian was not compatible with the system, so he had no other choice. Right now, there was a sliver of hope for the god's pavilion. He didn't want to give up. Again, King of Hen Tribe, this awesome figure that appeared in the novel Heaven Shrouding, this fierce group of people, did the god soul he obtained actually possess the strength of the sky shrouding? Long Fei also wanted to know. Thus, even if he knew that the god's pavilion might have other ulterior motives, he still wouldn't be able to do anything, as if he had no choice. Obtaining Long Fei's approval, God's Pavilion became completely excited and said, Thank you. Thank you. Rest assured, I will definitely wake her up as soon as possible. I will also definitely help you figure out how you should cultivate this power. Long Fei said, I'll lend you my power. You have to report to me at any time. God's Pavilion replied, No problem. Long Fei said, This power is for you. How long will it take for you to awaken King of Hen Tribe's soul? God's Pavilion frowned. He thought for a moment and said, I cannot guarantee anything, but I will do my best to complete it as soon as possible. Long Fei said, Okay, if you can complete it within 3 days, I will reward you with 3 of these powers. You don't need to use these 3 energies to nourish your divine soul. You can keep them for yourself. 3 days. God's Pavilion's pupils tightened. 10 strands of power? Very excited. God's Pavilion said, All right, I will definitely give this old life of mine my all. There will always be brave men in the midst of great rewards. 3 days was basically impossible, but under the stimulation of this kind of reward, God's Pavilion would definitely do his best. Moreover, how strong exactly was the star relate to Dantian? This can also be tested. If he really could only awaken the King of Hen Tribe's soul within 3 days, that would mean that the strength of the star relate to Dantian was stronger than even the God's Pavilion's power of 1,000 years. What kind of concept was this? It was unimaginable. Long Fei moved and said, Let's begin. The God's Pavilion did not dawdle and said, All right, I'm coming. Long Fei opened his mind completely. God's Pavilion entered his body with his consciousness in a defenseless state. In his hand was a small black jar. The instant they entered the pubes, God's Pavilion was so excited that he almost peed. His heart was incomparably shocked. Oh my God, is this a pubes? This is obviously the myriad heavens. This luck. What great luck. I'm so lucky. God's Pavilion was envious and jealous, but he was clear that this kind of great luck was not something that he could have. Even if he tried to possess her now, it would be useless. If it was him, it probably wouldn't be this kind of star relate to Dantian. And then God's Pavilion chanted for a bit. Then the small jar started to move, as though he was holding water. He closed the lid and looked at the glowing world. He once again swallowed his saliva. He was extremely envious. He did not dare to stay any longer. He was afraid that he would be lost here. The idea moved. He quickly came out of the star relate to Dantian. The God's Pavilion said, Many thanks. I will go back to work first. Long Fei said, Go. God's Pavilion withdrew his consciousness and entered the building. Everything was calm again. Now I just need to wait and see what he can do. Long Fei's heart throbbed a little. If the King of Hen Tribe's divine soul wakes up, it can be used by me. Haha, that would be great. Long Fei smiled faintly. It was good for the king of Hen tribe's divine soul to awaken, but she was still a divine soul after all. There was no way for them to fight for long. Long Fei relied on himself. The key was to master the power within the star relate to Dantian as soon as possible. The night passed in silence. The next morning, Qian Bell had already prepared breakfast for everyone. She clearly knew her identity, and also clearly knew that Long Fei had only set his eyes on her body, and that he had not taken her into his heart. What she needed to do now was to take good care of Long Fei. Try to be sensible. Only then would she be able to stay by Long Fei's side. She wanted to follow Long Fei and enter the divine space. Although she was only at the 6th stage of the God of Heaven, she had to be guided to enter the divine space. Long Fei was his only choice, because it was impossible for any family with a divine space to bring a person who had fused with a holy Godhead into the divine space. The person who fused with the holy Godhead in the divine space was a piece of trash who had no value at all. Qian Bell's dream was to enter the divine space. She just wanted to see the scenery of the divine space, to see the world there. Long Fei was also extremely satisfied with Qian Bell's performance. A beck and slap. Without even needing him to explain, he naturally knew what actions Long Fei was about to take. Under the bed can be taken care of living. This kind of woman was called a sensible woman. Don't worry about her. Long Fei said, I heard from Great Clan Elder yesterday that there will be a clan with a divine space coming by in a few days. When the time comes, I will come here to select a person to participate in the selection. Everyone nodded. Zhao Dehan said, Boss, do you really want to enter the divine space? I see that the people from the divine space do not see us from the mortal world as human beings, and would probably not be taken seriously if we were to go up there. Long Fei said, the more you look down on us, the more we must work hard. Right now, they're high up in the sky, they're gods, but no one can always be a god. As long as you step down from being a god, you're a new god. The martial arts training is an unending challenge. Zhao Dehan nodded his head. I understand, boss. What about you? Do you want to enter the divine space? Everyone looked at Long Fei. Long Fei nodded his head. I have a reason to enter the divine space. I want to go there to kill a person. Everyone was stunned, laughed, and said, the divine space is the finishing point of the ancient world. Anyone who wishes to enter the martial arts training would want to enter it, and so am I. When the time comes, we brothers will go in together. Zhao Dehan said excitedly, it's more fun to flip the world upside down with the divine space. Ha! Breakfast. Long Fei brought everyone into the holy source vein mine. The holy source was too abundant here. Every person who entered this place felt as light as a feather, as if they were lying in a sea of power. After they landed, they quickly entered a state of cultivation. Long Fei also sat cross-legged. He did not continue cultivating the power of the star relate to Dantian. The reason he entered this place was because it was quiet. Furthermore, only he could enter this place, and no outsiders could enter. He had come here for the instance dungeon. Sword Emperor Instance Dungeon. This was also his last instance dungeon. Long Fei moved and said, activate the instance dungeon. Ding, ding. Are you sure you want to enter the instance dungeon? Long Fei answered, yes. Ding, system notification. The instance dungeon is open. After collecting the idea, Long Fei entered the Sword Emperor dungeon. Gulp, gulp. The fierce wind was like the roar of an evil tiger, and from all directions, it randomly pounced towards Long Fei. Within the fierce wind, there was a dense amount of sword chi, and these sword chi were like small knives slicing at its face. The moment Long Fei entered, the clothes on his body were immediately ripped apart, and a few thin scars appeared on his face. Not only that, the blood groove health point above Long Fei's head was decreasing bit by bit. 100, 100, 100. The health point dropped down at 100 points per second as bright red numbers continuously floated up above his head. Special map? Long Fei's heart tightened. There was a special map in the game. Upon entering it, it would lose blood. This kind of map could not be used with any scrolls. I can't get out. The only way out was to die. Long Fei was not in a rush. He needed to first understand the situation here. Can I use pills? Long Fei swallowed a heal pill. The system immediately beeped. Ding. Useless use. The map cannot be used with medicine. As expected, this type of map cannot be used with any potions. I'm afraid that I can't leave either. I'll either die or break out of this instance dungeon. Long Fei secretly thought. Other than being unable to use medicine, I'm afraid that there is a time limit to this map. If we don't complete the instance dungeon at a certain time, I'm afraid we'll be cleared out as well. As expected of the last instance dungeon, the conditions are too harsh in all respects. However, the more difficult it is, the more I like it. The more difficult it is, the more generous the rewards will be. Long Fei's lips curled up. He wasn't afraid of difficulties. He was afraid that it wouldn't be difficult. Now the situation is clear. Long Fei started to walk forward. The idea released it at the same time, sensing its surroundings. Sword Emperor Instance Dungeon. It was like the primordial chaos itself. Violent winds raged, and sand and dust filled the sky. There was no sun, moon, or direction here, and everything around was the same. There were no signs at all. What was different from the primal chaos was that the wild wind carried a thick amount of sword energy. The Emperor's swordsman rank must be related to swords, this sword chi. It should have been released from some sword, or was it released from the body of a certain powerhouse? Long Fei thought. At the same time, Long Fei moved. Level 6 Ancient Dragon Body, open. Boom! The power of the Ancient Dragon Body was not restricted here. Releasing the power of a level 6 Magus, the power in Long Fei's body became extremely rich. After locking onto the direction where the sword chi was slightly stronger, his body sank as he stomped his feet. Bam! Long Fei's body shot out like lightning. Bang, bang, bang. His speed soared. In the chaotic world, streams of air currents swirled up. He ran like this for 6 full hours. There were no changes to the surrounding area, and even the slightly thicker sword aura that Long Fei could sense was the same as well. It was a little stronger than in any other direction, but he still hadn't found anything special. In other words, it was a good thing that everything went around the same as before. F***CK. Wall-hitting ghost. Long Fei stopped and felt his surroundings. There was no change. It was as if he had returned to his original place. Return to the origin? Or is it that this place is too big, and that it is the same everywhere? Open the system view. There were no prompts coming from the entire Sword Emperor instance dungeon. There was no target. System, can you please give me a hint? There was a prompt in all of the dungeons that we've been in. If there was no prompt, you should give me a target as well. What's that called? Are you kidding me? Long Fei started to ridicule. The Sword Emperor instance dungeon was much different from the previous instance dungeons. Long Fei was completely at a loss, just like how he was unable to find the entrance to the Star Relate to Dantian. Even though he complained to the system still did not give him any hints. Damn you! Long Fei roared furiously as he put away the system, then looked around again. There's no direction, no blood trough, and no life force. Everything here is just a chaotic world filled with nothingness. How do I pass? Huff! Long Fei let out a heavy breath, sat cross-legged, and immediately began pondering where he was. While he was thinking, the wound on his head continued to bleed profusely. 100, 100, 100. Just now, 6 hours had already passed, which was 6 hours. His health point could at most endure for another 4 hours. At a time like this, he couldn't be in a hurry. Phew! Huff! Long Fei controlled his own breathing and allowed his heart to quickly calm down. This is a state of chaos. Outside of this is a sword aura. In other words, the sword aura is unique. Sword chi. Could it be absorbing sword chis? How do I absorb the sword chi? Sword chi. The offensive power released by swordsmen was formless and intangible. When cultivated to a certain level, the sword aura would condense and materialize. It would appear formless, but it would be the same as real. The higher the realm of a sword cultivator, the stronger the sword chi would be. The powerful sword chi could kill in one move from 1,000 miles away. There were even some that were capable of breaking the heavens with a single sword strike. One of the swords referred to the sword aura. Sword chi was a sword, or was it something a human being had released, wanting to absorb? No one has yet. No one had ever thought of absorbing other people's sword chis. There's no way to absorb it, and there are too many sword chis in this chaotic world. Even if they could be absorbed, they would not be completely absorbed. Long Fei's heart was filled with suspicions. However, right now, he could only keep trying. Let's give a try first. Long Fei opened his eyes, his right hand moved, immediately taking out his great sword, and wave it a few times. The sword moves are imbued with sword chi. Can we absorb it? His sword move wavered slightly. Bang, bang, bang. The surrounding sword chis suddenly intensified, as though streaks of heavenly lightning had struck his great treasured sword. Long Fei's hand was numb. He could not hold onto the great sword at all. Moreover, the great treasured sword was able to support itself for a few moments before breaking apart. Breaking apart. It had not stopped. It was as if this world had a grudge with the big sword for killing his father. The big sword was broken on the ground, and the sword chi did not let it go. Only when the great sword turned to dust did it stop. Everything returned to how it was at the beginning. Long Fei looked at the large treasured sword that had turned into powder. His eyes were in a daze, and after swallowing a little, he muttered, "Damn, this is F*** King. What on earth is going on?" And Long Fei looked at the dust beneath his feet and casually picked up a handful of it. It was all metal powder, and his eyes narrowed. This... Don't tell me that all of them were powdered by the sword? Oh my gosh. There was an explosion, and the ground cracked. There was an explosion, and the ground cracked. Golden light continued to gush out from the cracks. Each and every one of them was extremely dazzling. Long Fei was extremely familiar with this kind of light. Without a doubt, the boss body emitted a golden light. Long Fei's eyes instantly lit up, and his entire person's blood began to boil. He heavily swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, boss, hee." Finally out, without waiting for Long Fei to finish. Boom! The cracked ground suddenly exploded, and a golden light broke out from the ground. Rumble! An explosive sound rang out within the Sword Emperor Instance dungeon. Then, a golden longsword was hovering in midair. Golden light flashed. It radiated with boundless light. It was just like the sun hanging in the sky. The light it emitted was streams of sword chis. The sword chi circled around the golden longsword. The sword chi on the map was completely different from the sword chi from before, becoming sharper and sharper. Long Fei's body immediately felt the pressure of 10,000 sword beams. It was as if the needles were going to pierce through his body. The sword chis had become sharper. Long Fei frowned. At this moment, the floating golden sword trembled slightly. What kind of sword is that? He actually spoke. A sword actually spoke. The heck? Is it psychic? Long Fei was secretly startled. The fact that the sword could speak meant that it was an extremely high level. Long Fei waved the bone sword in his hand and said, "Guess." Dragon Bone Sword. He had drawn it out from the colossal dragon's body, and it was also the power of the ancient dragon body. Of course, Long Fei withdrew the power of the ancient dragon body, and the Dragon Bone Sword also disappeared along with it. This sword was illusory, but he was real. The golden sword snorted and said, "No matter what sword, any sword in my sword-free boundary will be destroyed." Sword-free boundary? This was the first time Long Fei had heard of it. He laughed and said, "Any sword will be destroyed. Then what about you? Aren't you a sword yourself? Why aren't you destroying it?" The golden sword sneered and said, "Ignorant." As soon as he finished, the golden long sword suddenly moved. In that instant, the light exploded and the entire world was enveloped in a golden sword beam. This feeling was like, suddenly, arrows filled the sky and shot towards him. There were no blind spots or any place to hide. All in all, there was no way to block it. Long Fei's face changed. His eyes were locked tight. The shining golden sword in the sky said, "Capture the thief and capture the king first. I'll kill you first." The best defense was offense. Long Fei was very clear about this path. As long as he could use the golden longsword, he would be able to clear this instant's dungeon, and all his attacks would be gone as well. Ancient dragon body of the 9th level. Open. Once it became stronger, the power inside Long Fei's body became stronger. His body sank, and he rose up from the ground, the dragon bone sword sinking down. Shwa! Long Fei held onto the dragon bone sword with both hands, and his figure seemed to flash. With a single leap, it landed right in front of the golden longsword. Long Fei smirked and said, "Die for me." Ascending Dragon. Super Tyrannosaurus Rex. The dragon sword waved its hand, raised it, and slashed down in anger. On the ground, a raging tyrant WYRM soared into the sky, opening its jaws and swallowing the golden sword. Long Fei laughed excitedly. "Trying to act cool with me? Haha, you're still too young." There was no need to talk about the power of the dragon bone sword. Combined with the super sword moves, it could be said that the god's powerhouse only lasted for a second. Just now, the tyrant WYRM had directly swallowed the golden longsword. You can still live? At this time, system beep should be ringing. Long Fei was floating in the air, muttering to himself. But the system beep did not come as promised. It did not ring. Long Fei felt a chill in his heart. Strange. The attack just now would definitely have destroyed the golden longsword in an instant, and after the super tyrant WYRM swallowed it, the golden longsword disappeared. Logically speaking, the golden longsword should have instantly passed through the instance dungeon. However, Long Fei frowned. He had a bad premonition. It was also at this time. A sneer filled with contempt sounded, "Humph, you really are an idiot." The voice came out from Long Fei's back, causing his heart to tighten. He did not immediately turn around, because in such a situation, he did not have any form of defense in front of the golden sword. Long Fei released his idea and said solemnly, "How can this be?" The golden sword laughed. Ignorant. Also at the moment when the golden sword released its sound, Long Fei suddenly moved, and the dragon bone sword swept out. There are traces of distractions when people talk. The sword was the same. So when the golden sword made a sound, Long Fei made his move. What he did not expect was that when he turned around to look at the golden sword, it did not move, nor did it have any intention of defending or attacking. Long Fei was very surprised. In the midst of this surprise, the power on Long Fei's dragon bone sword did not decrease at all. Kill. Break. The dragon bone sword swept out. The moment it touched the golden sword, as if it had not met with any resistance, the golden sword shattered. It was like slicing through the air. But Long Fei truly felt that the golden sword had shattered. The dragon bone sword is too fast? What's going on? Long Fei's forehead was locked, and the system beep still did not make a sound. Could it be that this sword can teleport? Or is it some kind of high-grade chi method? Confusion. He was extremely puzzled. With Long Fei's level 9 ancient dragon body strength and speed, the sword would not be able to block that attack. Buzz! With a light ring, the golden sword appeared once more. Just like before, he let out a condescending sneer. Idiots are idiots. You don't even know what I am, and you still want to cut me down? Ha ha! How ridiculous! It appeared again. No damage. This time, he directly appeared in front of Long Fei, a distance of 30 meters between them. Long Fei's pupils contracted secretly as he repeated the words of the golden sword in his heart. You don't even know what I am. Could it be that he isn't a sword? Not a sword? What's that? It's obviously a sword. Could it still be a gun? Long Fei looked carefully at the golden sword. It was clearly a sword, and it wasn't anything else. However, if it was a sword, then why did he say that he didn't even know what he was? That's not right. Long Fei's eyes shook. He suddenly understood something. He is not a sword. He is sword chi. It's just a sword aura. Thinking of this, Long Fei's eyes flashed with a bright light. He became excited and said, I know, I know. Without waiting for Long Fei to finish getting excited, the golden sword teased. You know, so you're gonna die too. Long Fei understood. Long Fei understood. He finally understood. This golden long sword was not a sword at all, but a type, or perhaps a sword beam. The reason why Long Fei's great sword was so easily broken was because the great sword also had its own sword chi. Moreover, each step of the sword had its own sword chi. Every single sword move had its own sword energy. In this so-called sword-free boundary, no other sword chi was allowed to exist, so any sword would be destroyed. It was also because the dragon bone sword was too tough that the golden sword appeared. At this time, the golden sword seemed to have figured out the dragon bone sword. As long as Long Fei died, the sword would naturally disappear. The reason why Long Fei had made two moves was precisely because he wanted to avoid clear understanding of the dragon bone sword. Now the golden sword was clear. In other words, he was going to attack. Long Fei's face changed slightly. He looked at the golden sword and said, You are just a burst of sword chi. With just your one beam of sword chi, what can you do to me? The golden sword laughed. Truly ignorant. I am the sword chi of the sword-free boundary. In my world, no swords are allowed to exist. No swordsmen are allowed to exist either. So, die. As soon as he finished, the golden long sword vibrated slightly. Suddenly, the entire swordless strike began to tremble violently. A 30,000-meter long sword light shot out like a laser beam, bringing with it an incomparably powerful attack power. A ray of light shone on a Long Fei's body. Poochie! Oh. Long Fei couldn't help but let out a miserable scream. A hole had been pierced through the place where the beam of light had landed. Blood gushed out. The moment he dodged, another beam of light struck his chest. Bam! His chest was pierced through. 2 fingers big. Fresh blood spurted out, and a red figure that was worth over 100,000 damage suddenly floated up above Long Fei's head. At this time, Long Fei noticed his own health point. Unknowingly, this number had already decreased to less than a tenth. If he took more of these kinds of damage, he would die here today. Although his real face would not be harmed after dying here, and it was just a failure of the mission. However, Long Fei had never lost in a dungeon before. He did not want to fall down here either. Moreover, the power of this sword chi was not ordinary. If he could subdue it, or even kill it, it would definitely explode. Under these circumstances, how could Long Fei admit defeat? 30,000-meter sword chi. Sword light illuminated. Let me destroy everything. The golden long sword was like an exalted creator as it spoke a few words. Everything inside the sword-free boundary was under his control. Just a moment ago, it had only been a beam of light the size of a finger. But in that instant, all of the beams of light had fused into one. Just like the sunlight, without any obstructions, it was able to shoot down from the dead end. This way, Long Fei's body would become dust. Everything was ready. The golden sword sneered at Long Fei and said, Terminator! Boom! Rumble! A rumbling sound could be heard from within the light. And then, the color of the sky and the earth changed. Everything was covered by the light. An aura of destruction was released. Long Fei stood under the light, his brain spinning so fast that it could fly. How do I deal with it? How should I deal with it? There must be a way. There must be a way. Since this instant's dungeon has appeared, there must be a way to break it. Otherwise, how could the system come up with such a method? Long Fei quickly thought. Any instance dungeon would have a solution. No matter how strong or unrivaled a boss was, it still had its weakness. Now, Long Fei was using the powerful move that destroyed the boss. As long as the move landed, he would die. He only had a few seconds left. What should I do? Long Fei held onto the dragon bone sword tightly with both of his fists, his eyebrows locked. The words uttered by the golden sword echoed in his mind. He quickly went through each and every sentence. Suddenly, Long Fei looked at the dragon bone sword in his hand and grasped it tightly. His eyes flashed with light. I know. F***CK. You can't destroy the dragon bone sword. Haha. If the bones in the body of the ancient dragon body are created into a shield that can block out light, then, haha, I'm truly a genius. Long Fei roared out in his heart. The ancient dragon body has wronged you. There was no time to hesitate. Long Fei stabbed his hand into his own body and broke a bone. Actually, Long Fei was betting. If he had guessed wrongly, he would have died without even needing to use the golden sword. Because with every rib he pulled out, his health point would decrease, which was a form of personal injury. This would also cause his health point to drop. Veins popped up on Long Fei's forehead. The pain made his face turn black. In his hand were 5 or 6 bloody ribs, each of them a dragon bone. In fact, they were his own ribs as well. Hoo. Long Fei panted heavily and checked his health point. I can't smoke anymore. If not, I won't have to wait for the light to fade. I'm going to die from the pain myself. Long Fei quickly arranged the dragon bones together. The power of the ancient dragon body was poured inside, creating a simple shield. He raised his shield. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The light fell down, landing directly on the dragon bone shield. Long Fei's body sank. In this instant, he felt the weight of 100,000 mountains crushing down on him. The dragon bone shield trembled, and white bone foam continuously splashed out. Long Fei's arm was shaking, and at the same time, he was roaring loudly. The destructive beam of light wildly exploded on the dragon bone shield. It was like a flame that exploded when a planet collided. Long Fei kept retreating. The impact was too great. But Long Fei was extremely excited, because he had made the right bet. The dragon bone had absolute defense against this sort of sword energy beam. It simply could not pierce through it. If it was Long Fei himself, he would have already been turned to dust. Ha. Long Fei laughed excitedly. Your father is an idiot? Who is the idiot now? You can't kill me, right? Ha. The golden sword was enraged as well. It was like a crazy shrew as it crazily increased its power. However, no matter how strong he was, it was useless. It had never been able to break through Long Fei's dragon bone shield. The golden sword roared. He himself also merged into the beam of light and rushed towards the dragon bone shield. Rumble, heavily smashing on a Long Fei's dragon bone shield. Long Fei was directly sent flying. At this moment, the dragon bone shield split apart and he himself flew out. It was already enveloped by the light. In other words, the next second he would be dust here. But right at this moment, the system suddenly sounded out. Ding! 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 An incomparably melodious sound of a notification rang out. Long Fei was startled. He was now shrouded in light. It could be said that in the next second, he would turn into dust, and his mission would fail and return to reality. However, the system beep began to ring. This notification sound was like the sound of nature. Long Fei himself was a little confused. System beep. Has something happened? He didn't dare to think about it. This was because he hadn't killed the golden sword yet, and this boss wasn't dead yet. It was impossible for him to win and complete the quest. However, what was the system beep that rang at this time? Congratulations to player Long Fei for having subdued God's sword spirit. What? Submit? Damn, what the heck is this? Long Fei was confused. And then, another notification rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for completing the Sword Emperor dungeon. Long Fei was stunned. Completed? Following the sound of this notification, the entire sword-free boundary slowly disappeared from his sight, and Long Fei regained consciousness. Completed? Completed? Damn, I still can't react. Everything had happened too suddenly. Long Fei didn't even have time to sit still. He had only managed to block the attack from the golden sword beam. It was over. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining the dungeon reward. Reward: Dong Huang Sword. Reward: Water Emperor Armor. Haha! Long Fei laughed excitedly. If the boss doesn't drop, the reward is gone. Open the system to view the rewards properties. Weapon, Dong Huang Sword. Purple rank super artifact. Rank, purple rank. Super artifact attack. 100,000 to 1,000,000 health point. Plus 100,000 critical hit. 100% hit rate. 50% destiny strike. 20%. Looking at this string of numbers, Long Fei was secretly shocked. Damn, this? Weapons. Completely online? This chain of stats was all related to the weapon in the game. This was completely different from before. There simply wouldn't be such a detailed attack power, and there wouldn't be any increase in health point, hit rate, critical hit rate, or fatal blow. None of this will happen. This was a number that only existed in the game. Long Fei moved his body and directly took out the Dong Huang sword and held it in his hand. In that instant, his entire body was shrouded in purple light, and the purple light coiled around the Dong Huang sword like flames, continuously intertwining and extending towards his body. Long Fei's body also became lighter, as if he was standing in the clouds. His health point also instantly increased. This is way too eye-catching. Long Fei became excited. It was completely similar to the special equipment in the game, possessing a special appearance. If one carried this sword on the street, it was possible to turn back 100% of the time and kill both men and women, young and old. Haha, this weapon is so cool. Since it's the game system, then it should look like a game. The system is doing very well. I'm optimistic about you, so I'll give you a like. Actually, this was the feeling Long Fei wanted. In the game system, everything was digitized. This was more intuitive. At least, wouldn't feel that much pressure. However, Dong Huang's sword was a special weapon and also a reward from the Sword Emperor Instance Dungeon. As for the final Instance Dungeon, the rewards would naturally be different. This was the reason why the Dong Huang Sword S had such direct numbers, but not the Water Emperor armor, and only indicated that the purple rank holy artifact did not have too many descriptions. Long Fei did not mind. He did not pursue defense. What he pursued was supreme attack power. He liked Dong Huang sword very much. The Dong Huang sword in his hand waved a few times, and in that few seconds, Long Fei felt a difference in the Dong Huang sword's attack power, as if it had fused into one with Long Fei. A 100% critical hit with a sword would be able to instantly kill everything. What a good sword. What a good sword, huh? Very irritable. I like it. Long Fei slightly smiled and casually waved it a few times also at this time. Suddenly, a golden sword ray appeared on the Dong Huang sword. Rumble. The sword's body combusted with a ray of golden light, which Long Fei was extremely familiar with. The light emitted from the golden sword he had seen in the Instance Dungeon. Why is it on the Dong Huang sword? Just before the Instance Dungeon was completed, the system informed me that I had subdued a stream of sword energy. What was it called? The god's sword spirit. Yes. At first, Long Fei did not mind, but when the golden sword beam appeared on the sword, he reacted. Just as he was about to open up the system to check God's sword spirit, there was another explosion from the Dong Huang sword. Rumble. This voice was even more intense, and the explosion caused Long Fei's hands to tremble. What's the situation? Long Fei's eyes trembled, thinking about what the golden longsword had done in the sword-free boundary. His pupils shook, and he immediately ordered, "Did you hear that? Don't act recklessly." The golden sword chi was able to shatter his great sword. In the end, even though he managed to block the Dragonbone sword, it was more or less shattered. If the system had not decided that he had subdued the god sword spirit, he would probably have died inside. This rumbling sound was too familiar to Long Fei. The god sword spirit wanted to explode the sword-free boundary. There can't be a sword in this guy's world. Rumble, rumble. The sound was getting stronger and stronger. The power of the rumbling sound was getting stronger and stronger, and every explosion sounded like it was hitting Long Fei's heart. Long Fei couldn't even hold it back and said, "Brother, big brother, uncle. Oh my God, I didn't even get to enjoy this sword. And you want it to explode? Can you let me have some fun first? I'll take it as a kindness from you. Let me have some fun first." Long Fei was currently unable to control the God Sword Spirit. He couldn't control it. The God Sword Spirit kept attacking the Dong Huang sword. This was the first time Long Fei had brought out a Dong Huang sword. In front of any sword of the God Sword Spirit, other than the Dragonbone sword, it would be destroyed. Long Fei's heart could not take it anymore. This super holy artifact was about to be wiped out by a ball of sword chi. Long Fei's scalp was numb. Big brother, can you not be like this? Can you give me some face? Let me at least kill a person with such a godly sword, right? Rumble, rumble. The God Sword Spirit did not give him the slightest bit of face and continued to bombard him nonstop. Moreover, the blade of the sword was already cracked. The Dong Huang sword could not take it anymore. Long Fei jumped up and down as he cursed loudly. Your sister? What the hell are you doing? Do you know that this belongs to me? Do you know who I am? I am your master. It didn't matter how much Long Fei cursed. The God Sword Spirit did as he was told, not taking Long Fei's words seriously. Rumble. Walala. The Dong Huang sword had shattered. Walala. Walala. The Dong Huang sword that was wrapped in the purple divine light shattered, falling onto the ground. They were all fragments. Only the hilt of the sword remained in Long Fei's hand. Looking at the broken Dong Huang sword, Long Fei was stunned for a good 3 seconds, then angrily shouted, F*** KU, immortal. Are you trying to kill me? He was truly infuriated. In the final instance dungeon, the final reward was this simple and intuitive weapon. It also increased health point, and its attack power limit reached 1,000,000, with a 100% critical chance. If such a weapon was used in the game, it would simply destroy everything. But now, fragments all over the ground. Long Fei wanted to die. Why did this happen? Why was this happening? Oh God, what did I do wrong? You want to torture me like this? Long Fei's heart was filled with misery, with tears in his eyes. A handful of holy artifact was gone just like that. Life has turned gray. However, at this time, the God Sword Spirit had not disappeared and was still floating to the side of the sword hilt. Long Fei looked at it, gritted his teeth, and said, It's fine if you shatter my big treasured sword, but now you actually shattered the Dong Huang sword. Just tell me if you want to kill me or not. The God Sword Spirit was unable to respond. He did not speak. Long Fei replied angrily, Speak, what do you think? Didn't you say you can say it in the instance dungeon? Now tell me. The God Sword Spirit still did not respond. However, the sword chi continued to wrap around the sword hilt. It was a strange sight. It was like some kind of ceremony. Long Fei did not know what it was planning to do, and said, Are you not going to let go of the sword hilt anymore? Fine, fine, fine. I'll satisfy you then. Long Fei's right hand loosened, and he wanted to let go of the long sword. However, when he let go, the Dong Huang sword's sword hilt did not fall down. Instead, it was wrapped around his hand by the God Sword Spirit. Long Fei said, What are you trying to do now? Just as Long Fei was talking, the God Sword Spirit suddenly extended out. In half a second, it had turned into a sword, one after another, a sword wreathed in golden light. Just like the golden long sword, the only difference was that the hilt was different. Long Fei was completely confused by the God Sword Spirit. The sword chi formed into a golden long sword. It was still a sword chi. It was not a real sword. Just as Long Fei was stunned, the golden sword suddenly spoke with its young and tender voice. Master, from today onwards, I shall be your sword. You my sword? Aren't you a beam of sword chi? Long Fei asked doubtfully. The God Sword Spirit said, I am a sword aura. You return the sword to its sheath. I am a sword aura. If you take out the sword, I will be your sword. I want to destroy every single sword in the world. I want to destroy every single sword in the world. He repeated himself. Long Fei looked stunned and asked, What about your attribute? The God Sword Spirit said, I will definitely not be as good as your sword just now, and it will be many times better. Long Fei wanted to check the attributes, but he was holding a sword hilt. It did not have any attributes at all, and he was unable to check the attributes of the God Sword Spirit. Long Fei was suspicious of the god sword spirit's words. The god sword spirit seemed to know of Long Fei's doubt as well, and said, "For me to be able to destroy the Dong Huang sword, it is enough to explain everything. I can't prove it to you right now. You'll know it in the future." Long Fei said, "All right, I will believe you for the time being, but you have to listen to my orders. When I am not drawing my sword, you must not come out." Long Fei was afraid that his friend's sword would be shattered. If that was the case, he wouldn't even be able to compensate her. God Sword Spirit would also become a troublemaker. God Sword Spirit said, "All right, if you don't pull out the sword, I definitely won't come out." Long Fei said, "Then it's settled." With a move of Long Fei's right hand, he made the action of sheathing the sword back into its sheath. In truth, it was just moving the sword's hilt and putting it back into its sheath. He was worried that the hilt of his sword would fall off. However, what he did not expect was that the sword hilt and scabbard were perfectly fused together, with no intention of falling at all. This god's sword spirit should be in its scabbard. Long Fei was relieved. He put away his sword, sighed in relief, and muttered, "The instant's dungeon is over. Now it's time to attack the peak realm with all his might." Level was always the most important. No matter how powerful one's strength was, it couldn't be unleashed without a basic level. Long Fei was now a level 1 Sword Emperor. This was very impressive in the mortal world, but it couldn't even be considered the lowest level in the divine space. And his enemy, the Emperor Xian, he had long ago reached the strongest realm in the divine space. The difference between Long Fei and him was not even a little. It was very likely that they were at least tens or even hundreds of levels. How could they defeat Emperor Xian in this kind of situation? How can I take back everything? Long Fei still had a long way to go. At least, there was still a long gap between him and the Emperor Xian. This time, I passed the test and entered the divine space. Long Fei thought to himself, what he needed to do now was to make a breakthrough and enter the divine space. First, enter the divine space to understand the situation inside. Huff! Long Fei entered the training space. He crazily absorbed the holy source chi that was being released from the veins on the holy source, and then madly used it to cultivate. Spirit blood had expended too much energy. It was difficult for him to break through every level now. He had spent too much time doing so. However, Long Fei was not worried. If the breakthrough was slow, he still had the system. "Are you here yet?" Sword Elf Mountain. With his hands behind his back, the king of sword elves asked worriedly. Before Ling Yuan could even enter the hall, he had already walked up to ask. Ling Yuan shook his head and said, "I didn't see it." King of sword elves frowned. "No, according to the date, it should be the next 2 days." Ling Yuan asked, "Did you forget?" King of sword elves' expression trembled slightly, and he replied, "No, definitely not. Last time, it was these 2 days that he promised me." "What did the great elder say?" Ling Yuan said, "The great clan elder said that he has not arrived yet. He will notify us when he arrives. Also, the great elder asked me to send a message to you. Have you considered it yet?" "Master, what does the great elder want you to consider? Is it about junior sister Lu? Does great clan elder know that we are imprisoning junior sister Lu?" Ling Yuan's expression was a little anxious. He had been feeling uneasy these past few days. Not to mention cultivating, he even had nightmares about sleeping. Moreover, the current situation in ancient antiquity was completely different from half a month ago. Long Fei was already viewed as a god by everyone in the ancient antiquity. They couldn't handle it now. The center of King of Sword Elves' brows tightened and said, "You don't have to worry. Only the 2 of us know about Lu Luoxi. No one knows about him. Only we know of that place. Even if Meng Tu knows something, so what? Without me, he wouldn't have been able to find that place." Ling Yuan was still a little worried and said, "Master, could there be a problem?" Without waiting for him to finish speaking, King of Sword Elves glared at him and snapped, "What are you worried about?" Ling Yuan immediately lowered his head and did not say a word. The King of Sword Elves snorted coldly, looked into the distance, and muttered, "As long as Divine Powerhouse comes, nothing will be a problem. Great Senior Brother, Is there really a serene body in this kind of desolate place? Could there be a mistake? In midair, the air moved and space opened up. Several young men slowly descending from the sky above the ancient mountains. Ancient Antiquity, Main Peak. Ancient Antiquity, Main Peak. Meng Tu's face flushed red. He was extremely excited. Has the strong gale bell been rung? How many times did you knock? The strong gale bell was an ancient bell the patriarch of the ancient antiquity had found in the mountains. Its voice was like a raging wind amidst raging flames, and it was like the roar of a fierce tiger, resounding through thousands of miles. This was also the ancient antiquity's most valuable treasure. There were 3 powerhouses guarding the peak of the main peak. Only big things happened. Moreover, it was a joyous occasion that caused the strong gale bell to ring. The new sect master's successor only rang 3 times. The last time Long Fei came back with a great honor, he also made 3 times. However, just now it had sounded out 9 times. 9 out of 10, 9 chimes. This was an extremely happy occasion for ancient antiquity. One of the elders had a big smile on his face as he replied, "Yes, yes. According to your arrangement, we did it 9 times. Meng Tu nodded his head and said, all right, that's good. The fact that Divine Space Powerhouse is here is a joyous occasion for us ancient antiquity. When Divine Space Powerhouse comes, you must take good care of him for me. You must satisfy them, because that will determine the future of our ancient antiquity. Do you understand?" Long Fei won honor in Clan Congress. However, none of Long Fei's men entered the divine space. The strength and weakness of a sect was closely related to their divine space. The reason why Sword Sky sect was able to become #1 in the sect within the next few hundred years was because there were disciples within the sect that were selected by the clan with divine spaces every year. Long Fei had earned the title of the #1 sect for the ancient antiquity. What Meng Tu needed to do now was to quickly let the sect disciples enter the divine space and further strengthen the position of the ancient antiquity. Thus, this time, when the divine powerhouse descended on him, he was very happy in his heart, because Long Fei will definitely make the ancient antiquity shine again, and will definitely make the powerhouse that came from the divine space extremely excited. A mere mortal could defeat the god's powerhouse with a immortal swordsman rank. Meng Tu felt his blood boil just thinking about it. This kid will definitely succeed. Meng Tu said, "Have you informed the Captain Long?" An elder said, "I have been notified. We should be at North Peak. I believe that when Divine Space Powerhouse comes, Long Fei will be there." "All right. Long Fei has never let me down. He will definitely be selected by the Divine Space Powerhouse this time." Meng Tu was 100 times more confident in Long Fei. Many of the elders in the hall began to praise him as well. Captain Long is the most talented genius I have ever seen in my life. If he can't enter the divine space, who can? Exactly. I have never heard of a clan congress's #1 powerhouse being unable to enter the divine space. I'm sure about the Captain Long S. I don't think there are many people in the divine space with talent as good as him. I reckon that when the divine powerhouse saw the strength of the Captain Long, they would also be shocked. Haha. All of the disdain from the past had turned into flattery. They praised him as if they wanted to lick his shoes. This was reality. Previously, Long Fei was just an outer disciple who had snuck into the inner sect. He only had the support of the great clan elder. Now, it was different. Long Fei had brought them high and mighty glory. They could not help but want to kneel in front of Long Fei. The great elder faintly smiled and said, "I also think that he is not a problem. What I'm concerned with right now is what kind of sensation he will cause." Ha ha! After which he smiled happily. Everyone in the hall was celebrating. They were all waiting for Long Fei to cause a sensation. North Peak. The selection of the divine space is here. Are you guys ready? Long Fei stood at the very front and asked while looking at Zhao Dehan and the others. In the distance, right now, they also wanted to squeeze through their skin and enter North Peak to become Long Fei's disciples. However, Long Fei had given them a chance before, but now that the chance was gone, he would not give it back. Zhao Dahan rubbed the bridge of his nose and said, "Boss, don't worry. I will definitely let those divine powerhouse have a good look at my strength." Haha. Lu Sun also said, "You will definitely be able to enter the divine space. We are confident too. We'll definitely pass this selection." Bailey Tianhai faintly said as well, "I feel that it won't be difficult. With my brain and your strength, any test would probably not be difficult for us." Ha! Everyone laughed. Indeed, with Bailey Tianhai's brain, combined with Zhao Dahan and the others' cultivations, the ordinary assessment would not be difficult for them. Long Fei smiled faintly and said, "All right, then let's go to the main peak." Long Fei let out a heavy sound as he glanced at the sky. That was the direction of the divine space, and was also the final destination he needed to go. Inside his sleeves, Long Fei clenched both his fists. "Emperor Xian, wait for me." Long Fei summoned the ancient giant rock over. A group of people sat on ancient giant rock S and flew towards the main peak. This caused the disciples to have envious looks on their faces. Why did I leave back then? I remember that Wu Dahai's talent is not as good as mine, but now his cultivation is all Emperor Swordman rank. Why didn't I persist for a bit longer? I wonder when Captain Long will be able to accept us and let us sweep the floor to cook. As long as you follow Captain Long, whether it's humans or birds, all of them will soar into the sky. Even that giant rock has evolved, and now it has become the king of birds in this area. Even Ao Ian Zong's God's eagle is lower than it. Sigh, if only I could become a disciple of the North Peak. Many people were envious. In these few days, they had been guarding outside of North Peak because they wanted to become its disciples. Bailey Tianhai was also paying close attention. Not just the ancient antiquity, he was also paying attention to the disciples of the other sections. If Long Fei wanted to enter the divine space, he had to create a strong army for him. The veins of the holy source contained endless resources, and this was his capital. Not long after, Long Fei and the group arrived at the main peak's main hall plaza. Within the palace, with Meng Tu taking the lead, all the elders and peak owneress came out to welcome him. Long Fei cupped his fists and bowed. It could be considered that he had seen it before. Meng Tu said, "Captain Long, you are finally here. The divine space powerhouse is coming soon." Long Fei said, "Great clan elder, I wonder if you have found senior sister Lu yet?" The person he was most related to was Lu Luoshi. Meng Tu's brows tightened for a bit and said, "I will definitely give you a result today." Long Fei said, "Really?" Meng Tu said, "I will definitely not lie to you. Do well today, since no disciple in ancient antiquity will be able to enter the divine space. You will be the first person to do so." Long Fei said, "I will do my best." The group entered the main palace and waited for an hour before the divine space powerhouse descended. An elder walked out of the hall and looked at the sky, saying, "Is divine space powerhouse late as well? The strong gale bell has even rung. It should be here soon. Are you lost?" An hour had passed, and logically speaking, it should have been here by now. An hour had passed, and logically speaking, it should have been here by now. Meng Tu also walked to the entrance of the hall. With a face full of suspicion, he said, "We should have arrived. What's going on? Grand Elder, could it be that you've gotten lost? Grand Elder, did you get it wrong?" Many elders were puzzled. Lost? It was simply impossible. Ancient antiquity from the divine space would not come from any other direction. They would only descend from the sky, from top to bottom. How could he get lost on such a path? If he got it wrong, that's impossible. Meng Tu had personally felt the appearance of the divine powerhouse and had also personally seen it open. Given the divine powerhouse's speed, let alone an hour, they would already be there by the time Long Fei arrived. It couldn't have been that long. It didn't make sense to say that no one from the ancient antiquity had arrived. Within a radius of 10 million kilometers, there was only one sect in the ancient antiquity. Not to mention, Meng Tu was someone who came to the oracle so the assessment arranged by the Divine Space Powerhouse was also at this time, so it was impossible for him to go to another sect. Meng Tu was also puzzled. What exactly happened? Zhao Dahan said, "Could it be that they are messing with us?" With that, everyone turned to look at Zhao Dahan. Only Zhao Dahan dared to say such words. Meng Tu immediately replied, "No need. Divine Powerhouse isn't necessary. We aren't even considered important in their eyes." Zhao Dahan muttered and said, "Then why is there no one around? If they don't give us face, then there's no need for us to give them face. Divine Space is not anything special. Back then, they were all beaten up by my boss." Bailey Tianhai glared at Zhao Dahan, signaling him to stop. Zhao Dahan also immediately shut his mouth. Meng Tu glanced at Long Fei. His heart slightly shivered and thought to himself, "Looks like there's a lot of things I don't know about in Clan Congress." He wasn't in the mood to care about that right now. Right now, he seemed to know where the divine powerhouse that came down from Sky Gate went. At this moment, a disciple ran into the hall anxiously and said, "Great Clan Elder, Great Clan Elder, Divine Powerhouse, Divine Powerhouse." He was panting heavily and his face was flushed. This was a characteristic that only existed when Holy Source was overused. Meng Tu asked, "Is Divine Powerhouse here? Where are they?" The disciple was so tired that he couldn't speak anymore. Long Fei took a step forward and took out a pellet and said, "Take it first. There's no need to rush." The disciple's eyes were filled with gratitude. After consuming the pellet, the Holy Source recovered slightly and said, "Thank you, Captain Long, Great Clan Elder, Divine Powerhouse has arrived." Meng Tu glanced outside and said, "Where are we? Why didn't I see it?" Divine Space Powerhouse has a total of 5 people, and all of them have gone to Sword Elf Mountain. I had just come over from Sword Elf Mountain. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, Meng Tu frowned. Sword Elf Mountain? King of Sword Elves. Turning his head, he realized that the King of Sword Elves was not inside the Great Hall. Meng Tu was immediately enraged and asked in a low voice, "King of Sword Elves, what are you doing?" His words were filled with anger. He was already very unhappy about the actions of the King of Sword Elves, and now he was actually luring the Divine Powerhouse to the Sword Elf Mountain. What was he trying to do? Another sect? First Elder, what should we do now? This King of Sword Elves is too insensible. What is he trying to do? I've already seen him in a bad mood. Several times it was him targeting the Captain Long. Exactly. Many Peak owner began to mock the King of Sword Elves. Long Fei did not mind. He did not have any good impression of the King of Sword Elves. Meng Tu frowned and said, "Divine Space Powerhouse's status is too expensive. Making them move would make us too arrogant. I am worried that I will offend them. Why don't we do it this way? We'll go to the Sword Elf Mountain." He did not want to offend the Divine Powerhouse. They were all high and mighty gods, and whether or not the disciples of the sect could even enter the divine space would depend on their faces. Meng Tu was very clear of their tempers. To be able to come to the ancient antiquity was already giving them face, and even asking them to jump around would probably anger them. Meng Tu did not dare. No, for the sake of the ancient antiquity's future, he could only endure the rage in his heart right now. After all, they had disciples who wanted to participate in the selection as well. That's the only way. This King of Sword Elves is really something. Does he still have a main peak in his eyes? Great Clan Elder, are there still any Captain Long S? After this thing is over, you must definitely talk it out with him. Otherwise, he really will think that he is the sect master of the ancient antiquity. Meng Tu looked at Long Fei and said, "Captain Long, then let's go to Sword Elf Mountain." Long Fei replied, "I have no problems." Meng Tu said loudly, "Everyone, then we will go to Sword Elf Mountain." Just as he finished speaking, a voice swiftly descended from the distant sky. Zhao Dahan recognized him at a glance and said excitedly, "Boss, it's Uncle Fong." The one who came was Fong Wanpeng. He was sent by Long Fei to Dongwang Mountain Range to look for Lu Luoshi for training. He was finally back. Seeing him appear, Long Fei's eyes also lit up and immediately strode towards him, saying, "Uncle Fong, Zhao Dahan and the rest also went forward to welcome him. Meng Tu looked at Fong Wanpeng, and his heart tensed up. God Shi, he should have also merged with a holy godhead. When Fong Wanpeng saw Long Fei, he also said respectfully, "Peak owner." Long Fei asked anxiously, "Is there any news from Luluashi?" Fong Wanpeng shook his head lightly and said, "I searched every single valley in Donghuang mountain range for half a month, but couldn't find any suitable place to train or even any suitable place to train. After that, I didn't give up and went to the Eastern Emperor's sect." Long Fei frowned. Bailey Tianhai asked, "In other words, senior sister Lu did not go to the Donghuang mountain range at all?" Fong Wanpeng nodded his head and said, "In the past, whenever our sect members go to the Donghuang mountain range to gain experience, they would look for people from the Eastern Emperor's sect to register themselves. If they don't register, once they find out, they would be kicked out." Long Fei's eyes became slightly cold and said, "Someone must have lied to me." Then, Long Fei turned and looked at the great clan elder. Meng Tu's eyes also trembled and did not dare to look straight into Long Fei's eyes. Long Fei walked in front of Meng Tu and asked, "Great elder, did you already know that Lu Luashi didn't go to the Donghuang mountain range to train?" There was no way to continue anymore. Meng Tu had always wanted to protect the king of sword elves in his heart, but the actions of the king of sword elves today made him very unhappy. Compared to king of sword elves, Long Fei's was even heavier. Thus, Meng Tu chose Long Fei's side without hesitation and nodded. "I also learned about it the day before you came back." Long Fei asked, "Then where is she now?" Meng Tu looked in the direction of the Sword Elf Mountain and said, "He should be in the Sword Elf Mountain." As soon as he finished, the anger on Long Fei's body immediately ignited. His body moved, and like a bolt of lightning that pierced the heavens, he directly rushed towards the Sword Elf Mountain. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.